In this video, we're going to be breaking down 3 hours of SpongeBob Krusty Krab lore. Let's get started with the video. First up, we got the 3 origin stories, from Rusty Krab retirement home to pirate ship to burger partnership. The Krusty Krab stands as the most successful restaurant in Bikini Bottom, but its origin story is far from simple. Throughout SpongeBob SquarePants, 3 completely different backstories have been revealed for how Mr. Krabs came to own his famous establishment. Each version offers a unique perspective on Eugene Krabs' past, creating a fascinating web of contradictory histories that somehow all feel authentic to the character's complex personality. The first origin, the Rusty Krab retirement home. The first and most detailed origin story appears in Krusty Krab training video, which aired on the 10th of May 2002. This episode, formatted as an actual industrial training video complete with a professional narrator voiced by Steve Kahila, presents Mr. Krabs' history as part of employee orientation material. According to this version, Eugene H. Krabs displayed his penny-pinching nature from birth. The training video shows young Mr. Krabs as a child using the classic quarter on a string trick to get free soda from vending machines. Even as a kid, he demonstrated the financial cunning that would later make him successful in business. The narrator explains that Mr. Krabs served in the war during his young adult years. After returning from military service, he fell into a deep depression that seemed impossible to escape. The training video shows him sitting alone in a room with bars on the windows, completely isolated from the world. This dark period in his life lasted for an unspecified amount of time, with Mr. Krabs appearing to have lost all motivation and direction. But then his luck changed dramatically. Mr. Krabs discovered a bankrupt retirement home called the Rusty Krab that was available for purchase. Seeing an opportunity, he acquired the failing facility and decided to convert it into something completely different. The transformation was surprisingly simple. He literally just painted a K over the R on the existing sign, changing the Rusty Krab into the Krusty Krab. This origin story explains several key details about the restaurant's layout and history. The building's design makes sense as a former retirement home, with its simple interior and basic facilities. The narrator proudly describes how Mr. Krabs took this forgotten place and turned it into Bikini Bottom's most popular dining establishment through hard work, perseverance, vision, determination, and sweat. The training video presents this transformation as Mr. Krabs' greatest achievement. From humble beginnings as a depressed war veteran, he managed to create a business empire centered around the mysterious Krabby Patty formula. The episode treats this backstory as absolute fact, with the professional narrator delivering the information as official company history that all new employees must learn. The second origin, the pirate ship legacy. The second origin story emerges in Grandpappy the Pirate, which aired on the 17th of February 2009. This episode completely contradicts the retirement home story by revealing that Mr. Krabs comes from a long family line of pirates and that the Krusty Krab was originally his pirate ship. When Mr. Krabs receives a letter from his grandfather Redbeard announcing a surprise visit, he panics because his grandfather believes he's still living the pirate life. Mr. Krabs explains to SpongeBob that he comes from a whole family of pirates and that his grandfather used to say, "The Krabs clan has been pirates for as long as we've had claws." According to this version, Mr. Krabs was indeed a pirate captain with his own ship, which was always called the Krusty Krab. The flashback shows baby Mr. Krabs on his grandfather's pirate ship, being raised in the pirate tradition. As an adult, Mr. Krabs continued this legacy with his own vessel and crew, sailing the 7 seas in search of treasure and adventure. However, Mr. Krabs eventually grew tired of the pirate lifestyle. His crew kept taking all the money from their raids, leaving him with nothing despite being the captain. Frustrated by this constant theft from his own men, Mr. Krabs made the difficult decision to quit piracy altogether. He fired his entire crew and sold his pirate ship, ending his family's generations-long tradition of seafaring crime. But rather than completely abandon his beloved vessel, Mr. Krabs found a way to keep it. He somehow converted the ship into a land-based restaurant, maintaining the original name, the Krusty Krab, as a tribute to his pirate past. This explains why the restaurant has always been called the Krusty Krab. It was never renamed from anything else. This origin story provides a completely different explanation for Mr. Krabs' business success and his obsession with money. Rather than being a depressed war veteran, Plankton, who stumbled into restaurant ownership, he's portrayed as someone born into a life of adventure and treasure hunting. His greed isn't a character flaw, but a family trait passed down through generations of pirate ancestors. The third origin, TS, the childhood partnership. The most emotionally complex origin story appears in Friend or Foe, which aired on the 13th of April 2007. This episode reveals that Mr. Krabs and his business rival Plankton were actually best friends during childhood, and that the Krusty Krab grew out of their shared entrepreneurial dreams. The episode shows Mr. Krabs and Plankton as babies born in the same hospital on the same day. They became inseparable friends throughout their childhood, bonding over their status as outcasts. Both were frequently bullied by cruel classmates, Plankton for being small and intelligent, Mr. Krabs for being extremely poor. Their friendship provided comfort and support during these difficult times. Their favorite hangout spot was Stinky Burgers, a restaurant located in a literal garbage dump that served terrible food. Despite the awful quality, all the local kids ate there because it was the only place that would serve them. When Stinky refused to serve Mr. Krabs and Plankton equally, calling them freaks who were bad for business, the two friends decided to create their own restaurant. The boys opened Plab's Burgers, a combination of Plankton and Krabs, at the dump after Stinky's was shut down by the health department. Their first burger was absolutely terrible, and when Old Man Jenkins tried it, he was immediately knocked unconscious. This disaster sparked a heated argument between the friends about what went wrong and who was to blame. During their fight, they literally tore their burger recipe in half. Plankton got the bottom portion, which only said, "and a pinch of chum," while Mr. Krabs kept the top half. Angry and hurt, Plankton stormed out of their makeshift restaurant, slamming the door behind him and declaring their friendship over. The door slam caused a shelf of random ingredients to fall into the remaining burger batter. Rather than waste the mixture, Mr. Krabs decided to taste it and discovered it was absolutely delicious. By accident, the perfect Krabby Patty formula had been created from this random combination of ingredients mixed into their original failed recipe. Mr. Krabs memorized exactly what had fallen into the batter and used this knowledge to create his restaurant empire. Meanwhile, Plankton used his portion of the original recipe, just chum, to open the competing chum bucket. Their childhood friendship was destroyed, replaced by a bitter business rivalry that would last for decades. This origin story portrays the Krusty Krab not as a converted building or ship, but as the natural evolution of a childhood business venture. Mr. Krabs didn't acquire an existing structure. He built his success from scratch using the accidental discovery of the perfect burger formula. The contradictions and continuity issues. These three origin stories create obvious continuity problems that the show never attempts to resolve. The retirement home version shows Mr. Krabs acquiring an existing building and simply changing its name. The pirate ship story suggests he converted his family vessel into a restaurant. The childhood partnership reveals that he built his business from nothing after discovering the secret formula. Each version also presents different explanations for Mr. Krabs' character traits. The retirement home story attributes his success to post-war determination and business instinct. The pirate ship version suggests his greed comes from generations of treasure-hunting ancestors. The friendship story implies his money obsession developed after losing his best friend to their business rivalry. Even basic details contradict each other. In Krusty Krab training video, the building was specifically called the Rusty Krab before Mr. Krabs painted over the R. In Grandpappy the Pirate, it was always called the Krusty Krab because that was the ship's original name. In Friend or Foe, there was no previous name because Mr. Krabs created the restaurant himself. The timeline issues are equally problematic. The retirement home story places Mr. Krabs' restaurant ownership after his military service and depression. The pirate story suggests he owned the vessel long before converting it to a restaurant. The childhood story shows the formula discovery happening during his school years, implying he opened the restaurant as a young man. Why these contradictions work. Despite these obvious inconsistencies, each origin story feels authentic to Mr. Krabs' character in different ways. The retirement home version emphasizes his ability to see opportunity where others see failure, turning a bankrupt facility into a thriving business through sheer determination. This fits with his portrayal as a savvy entrepreneur who never misses a chance to make money. The pirate ship story explains his dramatic personality and tendency toward theatrical behavior. Throughout the series, Mr. Krabs often acts like a stereotypical pirate captain, complete with nautical expressions and authoritative commands. His obsession with treasure and his willingness to fight for what's his make more sense if he comes from a family of actual pirates. The childhood friendship story provides the most emotional depth, explaining both his rivalry with Plankton and his protective attitude toward the secret formula. It shows that his greed isn't just random character trait, but the result of losing his best friend to business competition. This backstory adds genuine pathos to what could otherwise be a simple villain-hero dynamic. The character of Mr. Krabs through multiple lenses. Rather than seeing these contradictions as flaws, they can be understood as different aspects of Mr. Krabs' complex personality being emphasized in different episodes. Each origin story reveals a different side of who he might be underneath his greedy exterior. The war veteran version shows him as someone who overcame genuine trauma and depression to build something meaningful. This Mr. Krabs is resilient and determined, someone who refused to let his darkest period define his entire life. His success becomes even more impressive when viewed as the achievement of someone who fought back from rock bottom. The Pirate Legacy version presents him as someone torn between family tradition and personal values. This Mr. Krabs chose to abandon a life of crime and adventure for the more stable world of legitimate business. His greed becomes a channeling of his inherited treasure-hunting instincts into legal enterprise rather than piracy. The childhood friendship version reveals him as someone whose entire life was shaped by a single moment of loss and discovery. This Mr. Krabs built his empire not just on a secret formula, but on the memory of a friendship that ended in betrayal and accidental success. His protectiveness of the formula becomes more understandable when it represents both his greatest triumph and his most painful loss. The flexibility of animation continuity. These multiple origin stories also reflect the nature of animated comedy series, where continuity often takes a back seat to individual episode storytelling. SpongeBob SquarePants has never been a show that worries about maintaining perfect consistency across its hundreds of episodes. Instead, each story stands alone while contributing to the overall mythology of Bikini Bottom. This approach allows the writers to explore different aspects of familiar characters without being constrained by previous episodes. Mr. Krabs can be a war veteran, a former pirate, and a childhood entrepreneur because each version serves the specific story being told. The contradictions become features rather than bugs, adding layers of mystery and complexity to characters who might otherwise become predictable. The multiple origins also reflect how real people often have different versions of their own life stories depending on their audience and purpose. Mr. Krabs might emphasize his military service when trying to appear respectable, his pirate heritage when trying to seem dangerous, or his childhood struggles when trying to gain sympathy. Each version contains elements of truth while serving different narrative purposes. The enduring mystery. Ultimately, the three origin stories of the Krusty Krab create more questions than they answer, and that's exactly what makes them so engaging. Rather than providing a definitive backstory that would close off future storytelling possibilities, they establish Mr. Krabs as a character with a rich and mysterious past that can be explored from multiple angles. Each version adds depth to understanding both Mr. Krabs and the Krusty Krab itself. The restaurant becomes more than just a setting for SpongeBob's adventures, Evo. It becomes a symbol of transformation, legacy, and the complex relationship between past and present. Whether built from a retirement home, converted from a pirate ship, or grown from a childhood dream, the Krusty Krab represents Mr. Krabs' greatest achievement and the foundation of his identity. The contradictions also serve as a reminder that in the world of Bikini Bottom, anything is possible. Logic and continuity matter less than character development and comedic potential. Mr. Krabs can have 3 different origin stories because each one reveals something true about who he is, even if they can't all be literally accurate. These multiple backstories ensure that Mr. Krabs remains one of SpongeBob SquarePants' most complex and interesting characters, someone whose past is just as mysterious and entertaining as his present-day adventures. The Krusty Krab's origins may be contradictory, but they're also endlessly fascinating, providing a perfect foundation for the countless stories that have made it the most famous restaurant in all of animation. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have SpongeBob's First Day, Help Wanted, and the Impossible Anchovy Challenge. SpongeBob's First Day, Help Wanted, and the Impossible Anchovy Challenge. May 1, 1999 was a huge day for cartoons when SpongeBob SquarePants first showed on Nickelodeon with the episode Help Wanted. This wasn't just any first episode, it started a cartoon that millions of people would love for years. The episode shows SpongeBob trying to get his dream job at the Krusty Krab, and he has to face a crazy test when hundreds of hungry anchovies attack the restaurant. The big morning. The episode starts with SpongeBob's loud foghorn alarm clock waking him up. This isn't just any normal morning for the happy sponge. Today is the day he's been waiting for. SpongeBob tells his pet snail Gary that today is the big day, showing us right away that something important is going to happen. SpongeBob's morning routine shows how much he wants this job. He jumps off his diving board and lands right in his square pants, then goes to his exercise room where he lifts weights made from 2 stuffed animals on a stick. It looks funny, but it shows that SpongeBob wants to be strong and ready for his job interview. He knows that cooking burgers takes energy and muscle. After working out, SpongeBob says with total confidence that he's ready. This simple word would become his famous saying throughout the whole show, but this first time is special. He's not just ready for the day, he's ready to make his biggest dream come true. The dream job place. SpongeBob runs through Bikini Bottom toward the restaurant, yelling, "I'm ready," over and over, while his best friend, Patrick Star, cheers for him from his rock. When he gets there, SpongeBob looks at the Krusty Krab like it's the most amazing place in the world. He calls it the finest eating establishment ever established for eating. The restaurant really is special in SpongeBob's eyes. It looks like a lobster trap with a sea theme, and there's a big Help Wanted sign in the window. The Krusty Krab means everything to SpongeBob. He says he's been dreaming about this moment for years, which shows how long he's wanted this job. But as SpongeBob gets closer to the restaurant, he suddenly gets scared. The real situation hits him, and he panics, shouting, "I can't do this." This makes him feel like a real person. Even happy people can get nervous when facing their biggest dreams. Patrick helps out. Just as SpongeBob starts to run away, Patrick shows up to make him feel better. In this early episode, Patrick is smart and helpful, which doesn't happen as much in later shows. He reminds SpongeBob why he's good at cooking by asking him questions about his skills and love for food. Patrick asks whose first words were, "May I take your order?" SpongeBob's were. He reminds him who made a spatula out of toothpicks in shop class. SpongeBob did. After thinking hard for a third question, Patrick asks who's a big yellow cube with holes. SpongeBob again. The last question is more about how SpongeBob looks than his skills, but it helps SpongeBob remember who he is and what he can do. This pep talk works great. Patrick's friendship gives SpongeBob the confidence he needs to walk into the Krusty Krab and go after his dream. The scene shows how good friends they are while proving that SpongeBob really does have the right skills for the job. Not everyone wants him there. Inside the Krusty Krab, cashier Squidward Tentacles is cleaning the front window, which has graffiti showing his head with the word "loser" written above it. When Squidward sees SpongeBob coming, he immediately panics and runs to warn restaurant owner Mr. Krabs that someone bad is coming to ask for the job. Squidward's reaction shows us that he and SpongeBob have known each other for a while. Even before the show really starts, we can tell that Squidward thinks SpongeBob is annoying and doesn't want to work with him. This shows us how they feel about each other without needing a long explanation. When SpongeBob comes into the restaurant, he trips over a loose nail and starts bouncing all around the dining room super fast. The animation shows him as just a yellow blur bouncing off walls, ceiling, and floor before finally stopping in front of Mr. Krabs. This funny scene shows that SpongeBob is clumsy but also tough. Even after all that bouncing, he's not hurt and still excited about getting the job. The fake test. SpongeBob begs Mr. Krabs for the fry cook job, saying confidently that Squidward will tell him he's good enough. But when Mr. Krabs asks Squidward what he thinks, the cashier takes a deep breath and just says no. This moment perfectly shows how Squidward feels about SpongeBob, while also being really funny. Instead of just saying no to SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs decides to trick him. He tells the excited Sponge that he can join the Krusty crew if he passes one simple test. He has to get a hydrodynamic spatula with port and starboard attachments and a turbo drive. This request is supposed to be impossible, sending SpongeBob on what Mr. Krabs and Squidward think is a useless hunt for something that doesn't exist. The two guys laugh really hard at SpongeBob as he runs off to find this fake tool. Mr. Krabs laughs like a pirate, while Squidward's nose moves up and down as he breathes during his laughing. These details about how they act would become important parts of their characters throughout the whole show. The anchovy attack. While SpongeBob goes to the bargain mart to look for his spatula, singing happily about finding what he needs, something terrible happens at the Krusty Krab. 5 buses show up at the same time and circle the restaurant like hunters around their prey. The bus driver can be heard yelling at passengers to stay in their seats and keep their fins inside, but nobody listens. Mr. Krabs and Squidward stop laughing when they hear what sounds like doors opening. Mr. Krabs starts sniffing the air and getting worried, saying one of the episode's most famous lines about smelling that smell, a kind of smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells smelly. His eyes get really wide as he whispers the scary word, anchovies. The bus doors burst open and hundreds of anchovies pour into the Krusty Krab like a huge wave. These aren't normal customers, they're a crazy hungry crowd that mostly just says meep over and over. There are so many anchovies that the usually calm restaurant becomes total chaos. Squidward tries to help. Trying to make things calm, Squidward tries to talk to the anchovy mob. He politely asks them to be nice and make a neat, single line in front of the cash register. For a short moment, the anchovies get quiet, and it looks like Squidward's request might work. But this hope gets crushed right away when one anchovy yells, "Eat," and the whole crowd goes crazy. The anchovies pick up the ordering boat, which has the cash register in it, with Squidward and Mr. Krabs inside, and start throwing it around like a ship in a storm. The two workers can't do anything against the huge crowd of hungry fish. Things get worse and worse really fast. The anchovies throw Squidward and Mr. Krabs up in the air over and over, while forming real waves that crash against them harder and harder. Squidward desperately says one single file line was all I asked, while Mr. Krabs yells sailor commands like all hands on deck and batten down the hatches. The impossible happens. While chaos takes over the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob searches hard at the bargain mart for his needed spatula. Against all odds, he actually finds exactly what Mr. Krabs asked for, a real hydrodynamic spatula with port and starboard attachments and turbo drive. The store only had one left, making SpongeBob's find even more amazing. Back at the restaurant, things have gotten really bad. The ordering boat is broken into pieces, and Mr. Krabs cries, "I want my mommy, Mr. Squidward," as the anchovy waves keep attacking. Both workers have to climb up the mast to get away from the chaos below, but even up high they're not safe as the anchovies make bigger and bigger waves trying to reach them. As Mr. Krabs and Squidward hold onto each other and say, "This is the end," red flashing lights suddenly light up the restaurant. They look up in shock to see SpongeBob flying through the air using his amazing spatula like a helicopter. He asks, "Permission to come aboard, Captain," while singing a hero song that announces he's back, making the impossible look easy. SpongeBob shows his prize to the shocked Mr. Krabs and Squidward. Not only did he find the hydrodynamic spatula, but it has all the parts they asked for. 2 more spatulas pop out from the sides of the main one, and the turbo drive starts up, making the extra spatulas spin around and hit both workers in the face. SpongeBob happily asks, "Would you believe they only had 1 in stock?" before saying he's going to the kitchen. What happens next is one of the most famous cooking scenes in cartoon history. As Tiny Tim's Living in the Sunlight, Loving in the Moonlight plays, SpongeBob does an amazing dance while making huge amounts of Krabby Patties super fast. He shoots patties onto the grill with his eyes, cuts vegetables perfectly, splits himself apart and puts himself back together, and uses his feet to squirt condiments with perfect timing. The animation gets really creative during this part, with backgrounds changing from purple to red to blue to yellow. SpongeBob turns himself into the numbers 1 through 4 on cards, showing he's totally mastered cooking. Krabby Patties flow from the kitchen window in an endless stream, giving every single anchovy in the restaurant exactly what they want: winning and new starts. The anchovy crisis ends as fast as it started. Once every customer gets their Krabby Patty, they quietly get on their buses and leave, making the Krusty Krab peaceful and profitable again. Mr. Krabs comes out of his hiding spot totally happy about the day's unexpected money and SpongeBob's incredible cooking. Calling it the finest fast foodsmanship I've ever seen, Mr. Krabs officially welcomes SpongeBob to the Krusty crew and gives him an employee name tag. Squidward tries to argue against this decision, but Mr. Krabs calls for 3 cheers for their new worker. Squidward's reluctant hoorays get less and less excited with each cheer, perfectly showing that he's given up on avoiding working with SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs then wheels away a huge pile of money in a wheelbarrow, going to his office to count the booty from their surprisingly successful day. This scene shows what Mr. Krabs cares about most, while proving that hiring SpongeBob has already made money for the restaurant. A perfect ending that sets up everything. Help Wanted works perfectly as both a first episode and a complete story. It introduces the main characters and how they feel about each other without long explanations, shows us the unique underwater world and how it works, and demonstrates the kind of adventures we can expect. The episode's structure, setup, problem, solution, through SpongeBob's unexpected skills, would become the template for many future episodes. The Anchovy Challenge does several important things for the story. It creates real danger for Mr. Krabs and Squidward while giving SpongeBob a chance to prove he's good at his job. The seemingly impossible task of feeding hundreds of customers at once becomes possible only through SpongeBob's pure enthusiasm and natural talent. Why this episode changed everything. The genius of Help Wanted lies in how it establishes SpongeBob as both innocent and incredibly capable. He believes Mr. Krabs is giving him a real test rather than trying to get rid of him, so he approaches the impossible task with genuine determination. His success comes not from luck but from his refusal to give up and his natural gift for cooking. The episode also perfectly balances comedy with character development. Every funny moment, from SpongeBob's bouncing entrance to Mr. Krabs crying for his mommy, also tells us something important about the characters. We learn that SpongeBob is resilient, Mr. Krabs is both greedy and cowardly, and Squidward is perpetually frustrated with his circumstances. The anchovy invasion serves as the perfect test because it's both absurd and genuinely challenging. The image of hundreds of identical fish saying "meep" while forming tidal waves is inherently funny, but it also creates real stakes. If SpongeBob fails, Mr. Krabs and Squidward could be seriously hurt, and the restaurant could be destroyed. The magic of the cooking scene. The sequence where SpongeBob prepares Krabby Patties for the anchovies remains one of the most celebrated moments in the entire series. Set to Tiny Tim's joyful song, it captures the pure happiness SpongeBob feels when doing what he loves. The animation becomes increasingly creative and stylized, showing that this isn't just cooking, it's art. This scene also establishes the mysterious appeal of Krabby Patties themselves. The anchovies are completely satisfied by SpongeBob's burgers, transforming from a violent mob into peaceful customers. This suggests that there's something truly special about both the food and the person preparing it. Setting up the series. By the end of Help Wanted, all the essential elements of SpongeBob SquarePants are in place. We understand the basic relationships between characters, the setting, and the tone of adventures to come. SpongeBob has proven his worth as a fry cook, Squidward has been established as the perpetually annoyed neighbor, and Mr. Krabs has shown both his greed and his willingness to recognize talent when it makes him money. The episode's final gag, where Patrick orders a Krabby Patty and gets pelted with dozens of them as SpongeBob's enthusiasm runs wild, perfectly sets up the show's ongoing theme of SpongeBob's good intentions sometimes causing chaos. Even when he succeeds, his extreme enthusiasm can create new problems. Help Wanted stands as a perfect introduction to the world of SpongeBob SquarePants, establishing characters, relationships, and the unique logic of Bikini Bottom while telling a complete story about achieving dreams through determination and natural talent. It proved that this underwater world could sustain countless adventures, all centered around a simple sponge who just wants to flip patties and make people happy. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Krabby Patty secret formula's many mysteries and near revelations. For over 2 decades, the Krabby Patty secret formula has remained one of television's most guarded mysteries. Throughout SpongeBob SquarePants, viewers have come tantalizingly close to learning the truth behind the most famous burger in Bikini Bottom, only to have the answer snatched away at the last moment. From the cruel cutoff in Krusty Krab training video to Plankton's endless failed schemes, the formula has stayed hidden while driving countless episodes and providing endless entertainment. The foundation of mystery. The secret formula first appeared as a concept in the very early episode Plankton, where the tiny villain's obsession with stealing it was established. But it wasn't until Imitation Krabs that viewers actually saw the physical formula itself, a piece of paper written in ink and sealed inside a transparent light blue glass bottle with a cork top. This simple container would become one of the most sought-after objects in all of animation. The formula's importance cannot be overstated. It represents the heart of the Krusty Krab's success and the source of Mr. Krabs' wealth. More than just a recipe, it's the foundation of the entire show's central conflict between Mr. Krabs and Plankton. Every scheme, every plan, and every elaborate plot revolves around this single piece of paper and its mysterious contents. What makes the formula so special isn't just its secrecy, but the lengths everyone goes to protect or steal it. Mr. Krabs has moved it from under his mattress at home to a massive safe in the restaurant. The safe itself requires a combination that only SpongeBob knows, making the fry cook an unwitting guardian of the most valuable secret in Bikini Bottom. The most famous non-reveal. Perhaps no moment in SpongeBob history has frustrated fans more than the ending of Krusty Krab training video. This episode, formatted as an actual employee training video, builds up to the ultimate moment when the narrator promises to reveal the secret formula to new employees. After going through all the basics of working at the Krusty Krab, the narrator finally asks if SpongeBob is ready to learn the secret. SpongeBob nods enthusiastically, and the narrator begins, "The secret to the Krabby Patty is..." But just as he's about to reveal the answer, the training video abruptly cuts to the end credits. The timing is perfect and deliberately cruel, leaving viewers hanging at the exact moment they've been waiting for throughout the entire episode. This wasn't an accident or a production error. The show's creators intentionally designed this moment to be the ultimate tease. They understood that the anticipation and mystery were far more entertaining than any actual answer could be. The abrupt ending became so famous that it's still referenced and memed by fans today, representing the perfect example of the show's playful relationship with its audience. The genius of this moment lies in how it uses the format of a training video against itself. Real training videos would never cut off at such a crucial moment, but this fictional one does exactly that, breaking the fourth wall in a subtle way while maintaining the show's commitment to keeping the formula secret. Plankton's endless schemes. Plankton's attempts to steal the formula have become the backbone of countless episodes, each featuring increasingly creative and desperate plans. His obsession began in childhood when he and Mr. Krabs were friends and business partners, but it has evolved into an all-consuming mission that defines his entire existence. Some of Plankton's most memorable attempts include disguising himself as Mr. Krabs in Imitation Krabs, using a mind control device in Plankton's army, and even traveling through time in various episodes. Each plan fails spectacularly, usually through a combination of SpongeBob's loyalty, Mr. Krabs' paranoia, and Plankton's own overconfidence. What makes Plankton's schemes particularly interesting is how they've evolved over time. Early attempts were simple and direct, just trying to sneak in and grab the formula. Later plans became increasingly complex, involving elaborate disguises, advanced technology, and psychological manipulation. The show's writers have used Plankton's failures as opportunities to explore different types of comedy, from slapstick to clever wordplay. One of the most significant attempts occurred in Plankton's army, where Plankton finally succeeds in getting the formula with help from his relatives. However, when he reads it, he discovers it contains 4 heaping pounds of freshly ground plankton. This turns out to be a fake formula that Mr. Krabs planted, while the real one was hidden under his mattress. This episode perfectly demonstrates how even Plankton's successes are turned into failures by Mr. Krabs' cunning. The gibberish revelation. The episode Krabby Road provided what seemed like the closest look at the actual formula that fans had ever received. In this episode, Plankton escapes from prison and tricks SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward into forming a band as cover for stealing the formula. When Plankton finally gets his hands on the bottle containing the secret recipe, viewers get a clear view of the paper inside. However, the writing on the formula appears as complete gibberish, random letters and symbols that make no sense whatsoever. This wasn't a mistake or poor animation. Vincent Waller, one of the show's writers, later confirmed on Twitter that the ingredients were intentionally written as gibberish so that the audience would never know the true contents. He also revealed that there was no meat whatsoever in a Krabby Patty, adding another clue to the ongoing mystery. The gibberish formula represents the show's ultimate commitment to maintaining the secret. Even when they show the formula directly to viewers, they ensure that nothing can actually be learned from it. This approach allows the show to have its cake and eat it too, providing the visual revelation that fans want while keeping the mystery intact. The episode also features SpongeBob singing about making Krabby Patties, but Mr. Krabs has made him censor out all the actual ingredients with nonsense sounds and raspberries. This adds another layer to the mystery while providing comedy through SpongeBob's creative censorship methods. False revelations and red herrings. Throughout the series, there have been several moments where the formula seemed to be revealed, only for these revelations to be proven false or ignored in later episodes. These fake reveals serve multiple purposes. They provide temporary satisfaction for curious viewers, while ultimately maintaining the mystery. In Plankton's army, SpongeBob tells Plankton that the secret ingredient is love. While this sounds like a typical SpongeBob answer, it's actually been confirmed in multiple episodes, including Growth Spout and the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. However, love as an ingredient is clearly metaphorical rather than literal, representing the care and joy that SpongeBob puts into his cooking. The episode Spy Buddies presents the formula as a literal mathematical equation, x 2 + 1 = Krabby Patty. This treats the whole thing as a math problem rather than a recipe, adding to the show's playful approach to the mystery while providing no real answers. Friend or Foe reveals that the original formula contained a pinch of chum, which makes sense given the episode's backstory about how the formula was created accidentally. However, this contradicts other statements about the patties being vegetarian, creating yet another layer of confusion around the true contents. The known ingredients. While the secret formula remains hidden, the show has revealed many of the standard ingredients that go into a Krabby Patty. From the episode Pickles, we know the basic construction: 2 buns with sesame seeds on top, containing the patty, lettuce, cheese, onions, tomatoes, ketchup, mustard, and pickles, in that specific order. Additional ingredients have been confirmed in various episodes. The Great Patty Caper reveals that the formula includes flour, barnacle shavings, salt, and turmeric. These ingredients help give the patties their distinctive taste and texture, but they're clearly not the secret components that make them so special. The patty itself and a secret sauce remain the biggest mysteries. We know these exist and that they're crucial to the formula's success, but their exact nature and ingredients are never revealed. This allows the show to maintain the mystery while acknowledging that there are indeed secret components. Sea vegetables play a major role in many Krusty Krab menu items. The restaurant serves kelp shakes, kelp fries, and various seaweed products, suggesting that kelp or other sea plants might be part of the secret ingredients. This would make sense for an underwater restaurant and fits with statements about the patties being vegetarian. Plankton's computer wife Karen has come closer to solving the formula mystery than Plankton himself on several occasions. Her analytical abilities and advanced scanning equipment make her uniquely qualified to reverse engineer the secret recipe through scientific analysis rather than theft. In Single Cell Anniversary, Karen actually succeeds in analyzing a Krabby Patty and discovering the complete formula. However, she explodes before she can share this information with Plankton, taking the secret with her. This represents one of the closest calls in the entire series, where the formula was briefly known but immediately lost again. Lockdown for Love shows another instance where Karen obtains the formula but deliberately erases it after Plankton ruins their anniversary date. This episode demonstrates that Karen is actually more capable than Plankton at achieving their shared goal, but personal relationship issues get in the way of their success. These episodes highlight an interesting dynamic. The technology exists to solve the mystery, but circumstances always prevent the knowledge from being retained or shared. Karen's failures aren't due to inability, but rather to bad timing and relationship problems, adding a human element to what could otherwise be purely technological solutions. The safe and security measures. The formula's protection has evolved throughout the series as Mr. Krabs has implemented increasingly sophisticated security measures. Initially kept under Mr. Krabs' mattress at home, the formula was eventually moved to a large safe in the Krusty Krab, where it remains for most of the series. The safe itself has become a character in the show, representing the ultimate barrier between Plankton and his goal. Various episodes show different security features, from simple combination locks to advanced alarm systems. The combination is known only to SpongeBob, who memorized it and attached it to one of his memories with Squidward as a backup storage method. In Friendiversary, this security system backfires when SpongeBob's memory is accidentally erased, causing him to forget the combination entirely. This episode shows how even the most carefully planned security can fail due to unexpected circumstances, while also demonstrating SpongeBob's crucial role as the formula's unwitting guardian. The physical security of the safe has been tested countless times throughout the series. Plankton has tried everything from explosives to drilling to advanced computer hacking, but the safe has proven remarkably resistant to his attempts. This creates an ongoing arms race between Plankton's schemes and Mr. Krabs' security measures. The business strategy theory. Some fans have developed a compelling theory that there is no secret ingredient at all, and that the entire mystery is a brilliant marketing strategy created by Mr. Krabs. According to this theory, the secret formula is just a way to keep customers intrigued and to distract Plankton from improving his own restaurant. This theory suggests that Mr. Krabs benefits from Plankton's obsession with the formula because it keeps his competitor focused on theft rather than legitimate business improvement. While Plankton wastes time and resources on elaborate schemes, Mr. Krabs can focus on running a successful restaurant with regular ingredients and superior service. Evidence for this theory includes the fact that Plankton's restaurant briefly outsells the Krusty Krab in episodes where he focuses on legitimate business practices rather than formula theft. When Plankton puts effort into customer service and product development, he can compete effectively, suggesting that the formula's importance might be overblown. The theory also explains why Mr. Krabs sometimes seems almost amused by Plankton's attempts rather than genuinely concerned. If there's no real secret to steal, then Plankton's schemes are more entertaining than threatening. This would make Mr. Krabs' relaxed attitude more understandable. The show's commitment to mystery. The creators of SpongeBob SquarePants have consistently stated that they never intend to reveal the actual formula. Steven Hillenburg, the show's creator, reportedly was the only person who knew the true formula, and he took that secret with him when he passed away in 2018. This ensures that the mystery will remain intact for as long as the show continues. This commitment to keeping the secret reflects a deep understanding of what makes the show work. The formula isn't important because of what it contains, but because of what it represents. It's the MacGuffin that drives countless plots, the goal that motivates Plankton's schemes, and the source of endless comedy through failed attempts and near misses. Revealing the formula would fundamentally change the show's dynamic. Plankton would no longer have his defining obsession. Mr. Krabs would lose his greatest treasure, and the central conflict that drives so many episodes would disappear. The creators understand that some mysteries are better left unsolved. The show's approach to the formula has influenced how other animated series handle their own ongoing mysteries. The idea that anticipation and speculation can be more entertaining than resolution has become a recognized storytelling technique, with SpongeBob serving as the prime example of how to maintain a mystery across hundreds of episodes. The cultural impact. The Krabby Patty secret formula has transcended its role in the show to become a genuine cultural phenomenon. References to the formula appear in other TV shows, movies, and internet content. The phrase secret formula itself has become synonymous with any closely guarded business secret, showing how deeply the concept has penetrated popular culture. Fan theories about the formula's contents have spawned countless discussions, videos, and articles. These theories range from serious attempts to decode clues from the show to wild speculation about impossible ingredients. The ongoing debate keeps the show relevant even during breaks between seasons and introduces new fans to the mystery. Real restaurants have attempted to create their own versions of Krabby Patties with varying degrees of success. While none can claim to have the real formula, these attempts show how the fictional burger has inspired real-world creativity and business ventures. The formula's mystery has also been used in educational contexts, with teachers using episodes about it to discuss topics like intellectual property, business competition, and the value of trade secrets. This educational application demonstrates how entertainment can be used to explain complex real-world concepts. The enduring appeal. What makes the Krabby Patty secret formula such an enduring mystery is how it perfectly balances accessibility with complexity. Children can understand the basic concept. Plankton wants to steal Mr. Krabs' secret recipe, while adults can appreciate the deeper business and psychological dynamics at play. The formula represents different things to different characters and viewers. To Plankton, it's the key to success and validation. To Mr. Krabs, it's his most valuable possession and competitive advantage. To SpongeBob, it's a sacred trust that he must protect. To viewers, it's an engaging puzzle that may never be solved. The mystery has survived over 25 years of episodes because it adapts to new situations while maintaining its core appeal. Each new attempt to steal or reveal the formula brings fresh comedy and character development while respecting the established rules of the game. The Krabby Patty secret formula stands as one of animation's greatest mysteries, not because of what it might contain, but because of how perfectly it serves the show's needs for ongoing conflict, character motivation, and audience engagement. Whether it's revealed or forever hidden, the formula has already achieved something more valuable than any ingredient list. It has become an integral part of television history and popular culture that continues to entertain and mystify viewers of all ages. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to pizza delivery dedication, the Krusty Krab's most epic customer service mission. Pizza delivery dedication, MIS, the Krusty Krab's most epic customer service mission. Pizza delivery stands as one of SpongeBob SquarePants' most beloved episodes, showcasing the lengths that true customer service dedication can drive someone to achieve. When a simple pizza delivery turns into an epic wilderness survival adventure, SpongeBob's unwavering commitment to customer satisfaction becomes both inspiring and heartbreaking. This episode perfectly captures the show's ability to find profound meaning in everyday situations while delivering some of its most memorable comedy. The call that started it all. The adventure begins on what should have been a quiet evening at the Krusty Krab. It's after closing time, and Squidward is eager to go home while SpongeBob finishes cleaning the tables. The restaurant is supposed to be closed for the day, but when the phone rings, Squidward answers with the intention of turning the customer away. He begins to say, "Sorry sir, we're closed," but Mr. Krabs suddenly appears and snatches the phone away. The customer on the other end wants to order a pizza, which immediately presents a problem since the Krusty Krab doesn't make pizza. But when Mr. Krabs hears what sounds like a profitable opportunity, his eyes literally turn into dollar signs. He promises the customer that they absolutely serve pizza and that their delivery squid will bring it right over. This moment perfectly demonstrates Mr. Krabs' willingness to say anything if it means making money, regardless of whether his restaurant can actually fulfill the promise. Squidward protests that they don't serve pizza and they don't deliver food, but Mr. Krabs has already hung up the phone. In a display of typical Krabs creativity driven by greed, he takes some Krabby Patties and physically molds them into the shape of a pizza, complete with what appears to be pepperoni and mushrooms. The transformation is almost magical, showing how Mr. Krabs' desire for profit can overcome seemingly impossible obstacles. When Squidward continues to object to the delivery assignment, suggesting that SpongeBob should do it instead, Mr. Krabs mishears this as a suggestion to send both of them together. With a cheerful, "Great idea, take him with ya," he seals both employees' fates for the evening ahead. The disastrous departure. Outside the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob approaches the delivery task with his characteristic enthusiasm and attention to detail. He performs a complete vehicle inspection, checking the front end, antenna, bumper, and even reading the bumper sticker that says, "I brake for sea urchins." When he checks the tire pressure by uncapping the valve and putting his mouth to it, he accidentally inflates himself like a balloon, speaking in a squeaky voice before releasing all the air into Squidward's face. SpongeBob announces with pride that they're really making history here, since this will be the first Krabby Patty pizza ever delivered. His excitement about this milestone shows how he views even mundane tasks as opportunities for excellence and achievement. To SpongeBob, this isn't just a delivery, it's a historic moment for the Krusty Krab. The problems begin immediately when Squidward refuses to drive and insists that SpongeBob take the wheel. SpongeBob protests that he can't drive because he's still in boating school and doesn't have his license, but Squidward dismisses his concerns, saying it's just around the corner and telling him to just do what you do in school. This decision proves catastrophic. When Squidward tells SpongeBob to back it up, the nervous sponge becomes increasingly confused about the controls. In a moment of panic, the words forward and reverse transform into Korean writing in SpongeBob's mind, showing his complete mental breakdown under pressure. He finally manages to shift into reverse, but instead of backing up a short distance, he continues backing up for miles and miles into the wilderness, repeating, backing up, as Squidward desperately tries to grab the wheel. The boat finally runs out of gas in the middle of a vast desert, leaving both employees stranded far from civilization. When Squidward kicks the boat in frustration, it suddenly starts up again and drives away without them, taking away their only means of transportation and leaving them truly alone in the wilderness. The journey begins. Rather than give up, SpongeBob suggests they continue the delivery on foot. His optimism in the face of this setback demonstrates his complete dedication to customer service. The idea of failing to deliver the pizza simply doesn't occur to him as an option. To SpongeBob, they made a promise to a customer, and that promise must be kept regardless of the obstacles. As they begin walking across the desert, SpongeBob starts singing his famous song about the Krusty Krab pizza. The song begins as a simple jingle, but evolves into an increasingly elaborate and passionate performance, with SpongeBob's voice rising to gospel-style heights as he proclaims the pizza's excellence. This musical moment perfectly captures SpongeBob's ability to find joy and purpose even in difficult circumstances. Meanwhile, Squidward becomes increasingly miserable, complaining that his feet are killing him and showing none of SpongeBob's enthusiasm for their mission. The contrast between their attitudes highlights their fundamental differences. Where SpongeBob sees an adventure and a sacred duty, Squidward sees only inconvenience and suffering. SpongeBob then demonstrates his knowledge of pioneer tricks that he claims to have learned from movies. He lies down and listens to the ground, hearing a truck approaching in the distance. When the truck appears, SpongeBob tries to flag it down by performing an elaborate dance in the middle of the road, complete with wild gesticulations and what he calls pioneer hitchhiking. However, the truck driver, who shouts something about crashin' fashion break dancers, actually speeds up instead of stopping. Squidward has to push SpongeBob out of the way to prevent him from being run over, and both get covered in sand from the truck's wake. The storm and the miracle. The situation becomes even more dangerous when heavy winds begin to blow. The pizza box gets caught in the wind current, and SpongeBob grabs onto it, refusing to let go despite Squidward's increasingly frantic pleas. The winds escalate into a full tornado that lifts both characters into the air, spinning them around violently. Squidward screams at SpongeBob to let go of the pizza, but SpongeBob maintains his grip, shouting back, "I can't, it's for the customer." Even facing potential death, SpongeBob's commitment to customer service remains absolute. His willingness to risk his life for a pizza delivery might seem absurd, but it reflects the purity of his dedication to doing the right thing. In a miraculous turn of events, the pizza box transforms into a parachute, saving both of their lives as they float safely to the ground. This impossible physics moment is typical of SpongeBob's universe, where good intentions and pure hearts can literally work miracles. The pizza that Squidward wanted SpongeBob to abandon becomes the very thing that saves them. Unfortunately, they land even further from civilization than before, with no road in sight. The storm has made their situation worse, but SpongeBob remains undaunted, still focused on completing their delivery mission. Pioneer, wisdom, and stubborn skepticism. When they find themselves completely lost, SpongeBob suggests using another pioneer trick he learned from movies. He points to moss growing on a nearby rock, explaining that moss always points to civilization. Despite having been wrong about the hitchhiking, SpongeBob's confidence in this pioneer wisdom remains unshaken. Squidward, however, has had enough of SpongeBob's pioneer tricks. He sarcastically asks if SpongeBob really thinks they should go in the direction the moss indicates, and when SpongeBob confirms this, Squidward stubbornly declares that he's going the opposite way. The camera pulls back to reveal that there actually is a town in the direction the moss was pointing, showing that SpongeBob's pioneer knowledge was correct all along. This moment perfectly illustrates how Squidward's cynicism and stubborn refusal to trust SpongeBob leads him to make the wrong choice. His belief that he knows better than everyone else, combined with his dismissal of SpongeBob's seemingly childish knowledge, causes him to lead them further into the wilderness. As they walk in the wrong direction, both characters become increasingly tired and hungry. SpongeBob suggests eating coral, another pioneer survival technique, though he admits uncertainty about whether pioneers actually ate coral, sand, or mud. This confusion doesn't stop him from trying to apply every piece of survival knowledge he can remember, showing his determination to overcome their challenges through resourcefulness and optimism. The breaking point. Squidward reaches his limit and declares that he's going to eat the pizza. He's given up on the delivery and just wants to satisfy his hunger, but SpongeBob absolutely refuses to let him. A chase scene ensues, with Squidward pursuing SpongeBob around the desert, trying to grab the pizza while SpongeBob protects it with desperate determination. During this chase, SpongeBob repeatedly shouts, "No, it's for the customer," showing that even when faced with his hungry and desperate coworker, his sense of duty remains uncompromised. To SpongeBob, eating the customer's pizza would be a betrayal of trust, regardless of their circumstances. The chase demonstrates the fundamental difference in their values. Squidward sees the pizza as food that could solve their immediate problem of hunger. SpongeBob sees it as a sacred trust that belongs to someone else, no matter what personal cost protecting it might require. Just when Squidward is about to overpower SpongeBob and take the pizza by force, SpongeBob spots a giant boulder and becomes ecstatic with joy. He declares that they're saved because the pioneers used to ride these babies for miles. This claim seems even more ridiculous than his previous pioneer knowledge, leading Squidward to finally explode in frustration. The rock that changed everything. Squidward delivers a scathing speech about the pioneers, pointing out that none of them are left alive because they were lousy hitchhikers, ate coral, and took directions from algae. He's completely fed up with SpongeBob's seemingly nonsensical survival techniques and refuses to believe that anyone could actually ride a rock. But as Squidward finishes his rant, SpongeBob accidentally runs him over with the boulder, which turns out to be mobile after all. Squidward finds himself clinging to the rock as it carries them across the desert at impressive speed, proving once again that SpongeBob's pioneer knowledge, however absurd it might seem, actually works. The rock riding scene is both hilarious and triumphant, showing that SpongeBob's childlike faith in impossible things can overcome adult skepticism and cynicism. Squidward's logical objections prove meaningless when faced with the cartoon physics of SpongeBob's world, where belief and pure intentions can make anything possible. As they ride the rock toward their destination, there's a sense that their ordeal is finally coming to an end. They've survived the desert, the storm, and their conflicts with each other. The customer is finally going to receive their pizza, and SpongeBob's dedication will be rewarded. The crushing disappointment. When they finally arrive at the customer's house, SpongeBob rings the doorbell with obvious excitement, eager to see the customer's reaction to receiving their pizza. He announces proudly, "Congratulations, sir. Your Krabby Patty pizza is here." The customer initially seems pleased, saying he's been dying for one of these pizzas. But then the customer asks where his drink is. SpongeBob, confused, asks what drink, and the customer explodes in anger, demanding his Diet Dr. Kelp. When SpongeBob checks his order pad and points out that no drink was ordered, the customer becomes even more furious, screaming about how he's supposed to eat pizza without a drink. This moment is particularly cruel because the customer did try to order a drink, but Mr. Krabs hung up the phone before the order was complete. Neither SpongeBob nor Squidward knows about this detail, making the customer's anger seem completely unreasonable to them. The customer's tirade becomes personal and vicious. He accuses SpongeBob of not thinking about the customer and calls him a terrible delivery boy. He throws the pizza box back at SpongeBob and slams the door, refusing to accept or pay for the pizza that they've gone through so much to deliver. SpongeBob's heartbreak. The customer's rejection devastates SpongeBob completely. He falls to the ground and begins sobbing uncontrollably, absorbing his own tears as they fall. This isn't just disappointment about a failed delivery. It's a fundamental attack on SpongeBob's identity and values. The customer has told him that he doesn't care about customer service, which is the exact opposite of everything SpongeBob believes about himself. Throughout their entire ordeal, SpongeBob maintained his optimism and dedication because he believed they were doing something important and meaningful. The customer's harsh words destroy that sense of purpose, suggesting that all their suffering was pointless and that SpongeBob is actually bad at the thing he cares most about. This moment represents one of SpongeBob's most vulnerable scenes in the entire series. Usually, his optimism is unshakable, but the customer's cruelty cuts directly to the heart of his deepest fears about his own competence and worth. Squidward's finest moment. Squidward watches SpongeBob's breakdown with growing anger. Throughout their journey, he's been annoyed by SpongeBob's optimism and dedication, but seeing the customer's cruel treatment of his co-worker triggers something protective in Squidward. He knocks on the customer's door with determination. When the customer answers, Squidward forces the pizza into his mouth, declaring, "Well, this one's on the house." It's a moment of perfect justice, delivered with physical comedy but driven by genuine outrage at how SpongeBob has been treated. This scene reveals the depth of Squidward's relationship with SpongeBob. Despite all his complaints and irritation, Squidward genuinely cares about SpongeBob and won't tolerate seeing him mistreated by others. The customer's behavior crosses a line that Squidward won't allow, showing that his loyalty to SpongeBob runs deeper than his surface-level annoyance. The bitter irony. As they prepare to head home, riding their trusty rock, the episode delivers its final twist. When SpongeBob says they have just enough time to get back to work, the camera pulls back to reveal that the customer's house is directly across the street from the Krusty Krab. Their entire epic journey through the wilderness could have been avoided with a simple walk across the street. This revelation is both hilarious and somewhat tragic. All their suffering, the getting lost, the storm, the hunger, the exhaustion, was completely unnecessary. If they had simply walked out the front door of the Krusty Krab and looked around, they would have seen their destination immediately. The irony emphasizes how their problems stemmed from poor planning and Squidward's refusal to let SpongeBob avoid driving. If Squidward had been willing to drive himself, or if they had simply walked from the beginning, none of their adventure would have happened. The deeper meaning. Pizza delivery works on multiple levels as both comedy and character study. On the surface, it's a hilarious adventure story filled with absurd situations and impossible physics. But underneath, it's a profound exploration of dedication, loyalty, and the meaning of customer service. SpongeBob's commitment to delivering the pizza goes far beyond any reasonable expectation of employee duty. His willingness to risk his life for a customer he's never met demonstrates a purity of purpose that's both admirable and slightly insane. The episode never mocks this dedication, instead presenting it as something beautiful and rare. Squidward's character development throughout the episode is equally important. He begins as a reluctant participant who just wants to go home, but gradually reveals deeper layers of loyalty and protectiveness. His final confrontation with the rude customer shows that despite his grumpy exterior, he has a strong sense of justice and genuine affection for SpongeBob. The customer represents the worst type of consumer entitlement, CSA, someone who makes unreasonable demands and treats service workers poorly. His rejection of the pizza serves as a reminder that sometimes dedication and hard work aren't appreciated or rewarded, but that doesn't make them less valuable. A testament to friendship. At its core, pizza delivery is about friendship forged through shared adversity. SpongeBob and Squidward begin the episode with their usual dynamic, enthusiastic employee and grumpy coworker. But their journey through the wilderness creates a bond between them that goes beyond their workplace relationship. Squidward's protection of SpongeBob at the end isn't just about standing up to a rude customer. It's about defending someone he's come to respect and care about. SpongeBob's unwavering optimism and dedication, which initially annoyed Squidward, ultimately inspire him to be a better person. The episode demonstrates that true customer service isn't about following company policies or making sales. It's about caring enough to do the right thing even when it's difficult. SpongeBob's dedication to delivering the pizza represents the best of what service can be when it's driven by genuine concern for others rather than just obligation or profit. Pizza delivery remains a perfect example of SpongeBob SquarePants at its finest, taking a simple premise and finding within it universal truths about friendship, dedication, and the importance of treating others with kindness. It shows that even the most mundane tasks can become epic adventures when approached with the right attitude, and that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Squidward's transformation attempts, from 5-star dining to complete disasters. Throughout SpongeBob's run, there's a classic pattern that emerges whenever someone tries to turn the humble Krusty Krab into something fancier. Squidward repeatedly attempts to elevate the restaurant into a sophisticated establishment, but these grand plans always crash and burn in spectacular fashion. The contrast between his refined dreams and the chaotic reality of Bikini Bottom makes for some of the show's most entertaining episodes. When pride meets panic. The most famous example comes in Squilliam Returns, where Squidward lies to his wealthy rival Squilliam Fancison, claiming he owns a 5-star restaurant. This wasn't planned. It was pure panic. When Squilliam started bragging about his success, Squidward's ego couldn't handle being seen as just a cashier at a fast food joint. Mr. Krabs immediately jumps at the chance to impress Squilliam because that guy who made millions doing what you wish you could do means serious money potential. The irony? Mr. Krabs is just as excited about the transformation as Squidward, but for completely different reasons. The transformation itself becomes a masterclass in everything going wrong. SpongeBob clears his mind of everything except fine dining and breathing, which causes his brain to literally snap when he can't remember his own name. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs reveals he only worked as a janitor on the S Gourmet, and was actually the head chef on the S Diarrhea, hardly the credentials needed for fine dining. The restaurant briefly becomes everything Squidward dreamed of. The Krusty Krab transforms into a very fancy 5-star restaurant through some miraculous SpongeBob magic, but the success is short-lived. SpongeBob goes completely insane, mindlessly spilling food on patrons and causing chaos. The fancy facade crumbles when everything falls apart, revealing the Krusty Krab's true nature. The hotel disaster. In Krusty Towers, Mr. Krabs takes the lead on transformation after getting inspired by an expensive hotel stay. He discovers that hotels charge $25 for a hamburger and decides he can do the same with Krabby Patties. The motto becomes, "We shall never deny a guest, even the most ridiculous request," which sounds noble until you realize what it actually means. Squidward initially loves the idea of working somewhere fancy, but reality hits hard when Patrick becomes their first guest. Patrick's bags are literally filled with rocks, and he keeps making increasingly ridiculous demands. When Squidward finally snaps and quits, he turns the tables by becoming a guest himself. As a paying customer, Squidward tortures Mr. Krabs with the same motto that was supposed to bring in money. He demands a Krabby Patty with cheese, toenail clippings, and nose hairs. He forces Mr. Krabs to visit his mother to get homemade cookies. He has them redecorate his room multiple times until it looks exactly like it started. The final straw comes when Squidward demands an indoor swimming pool. Mr. Krabs actually builds one in his room, but when Patrick does a cannonball, the entire hotel collapses floor by floor. Only the original Krusty Krab survives, sitting on top of the rubble like nothing happened. The French chef exchange. The big switch shows what happens when Mr. Krabs tries a different approach, bringing in outside talent instead of transforming the existing staff. He enrolls SpongeBob in a chef exchange program, sending him to work at the fancy restaurant Fancy, while bringing in a snooty French chef named Le Schnook. SpongeBob struggles at the upscale restaurant because he literally cannot cook anything except Krabby Patties. Even when he tries to fry a simple egg, it automatically turns into a Krabby Patty. The head chef at Fancy is initially disgusted, but once he tastes the patty, he realizes how amazing it is and starts serving them to his wealthy customers. Back at the Krusty Krab, Le Schnook proves to be a nightmare. He insists on using expensive ingredients like shredded gold to make his dishes palatable. He demands real silverware instead of plastic forks painted silver. He refuses to work with Mr. Krab's cheap attempts at creating a fancy atmosphere. The result? The Krusty Krab goes completely bankrupt. Mr. Krabs loses everything. His furniture, his office, even his house gets repossessed. He literally sells Squidward to the repo men to help pay his debts. Meanwhile, SpongeBob becomes so popular at Fancy that the customers cling to his legs when it's time to leave. Why these transformations always fail? The pattern is clear across all these episodes. Every attempt to make the Krusty Krab fancy fails because it goes against the restaurant's fundamental nature. The Krusty Krab works because it's simple, authentic, and serves good food to regular people. When you try to force sophistication onto something that's naturally casual, everything falls apart. Squidward's attempts usually fail because of his own personality flaws. His arrogance blinds him to practical problems. In Squilliam Returns, he's so focused on impressing his rival that he doesn't think through the logistics. His lie spirals out of control because he can't admit the truth. Mr. Krabs' attempts fail because of his cheapness. In Krusty Towers, he wants to charge fancy prices without paying for fancy ingredients or proper staff. In The Big Switch, he doesn't research what fine dining actually costs. He sees the potential profits without understanding the expenses. The episodes also show how the regular customers prefer the original Krusty Krab. In The Big Switch, when SpongeBob returns with new customers from Fancy, they're perfectly happy eating Krabby Patties off the floor. They don't need fancy furniture or complicated presentations. They just want good food. The comedy of class pretensions. These transformation episodes work so well because they're fundamentally about class and pretension. Squidward desperately wants to be seen as sophisticated and cultured, but he's working at a fast food restaurant in a small town under the sea. Mr. Krabs wants the profits that come with upscale dining, but none of the costs or effort. The humor comes from watching their grand plans crumble under the weight of reality. You can't fake sophistication, and you can't force a business to be something it's not. The Krusty Krab succeeds because it knows what it is, a simple restaurant that serves good burgers to regular fish. When Squidward tries to play the role of fancy restaurant owner, he gets exposed as a fraud. When Mr. Krabs tries to run a luxury hotel, he cuts so many corners that the building literally collapses. When they bring in actual fancy chefs, those chefs either bankrupt the business or abandon it for somewhere that appreciates their talents. The episodes suggest that there's nothing wrong with being regular or working class. The problems arise when people try to pretend they're something they're not. SpongeBob succeeds wherever he goes because he's authentic. He makes great Krabby Patties and treats people with genuine kindness. His simple approach works better than all of Squidward's schemes and Mr. Krabs' get-rich-quick plans. These transformation episodes remain some of SpongeBob's funniest because they tap into universal themes about authenticity, class anxiety, and the gap between our dreams and reality. Everyone can relate to wanting to impress someone or feeling embarrassed about their job, but the show's message is clear: being genuine beats being fake, and sometimes the simple approach is the best approach. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Great Patty Caper, when the secret formula was actually stolen. In the world of SpongeBob SquarePants, few things are more sacred than the Krabby Patty secret formula. For over 2 decades, fans have watched Plankton's endless failed attempts to steal it, making the formula seem almost untouchable. But there are 2 episodes where the unthinkable actually happens. The secret formula, or its key ingredient, gets stolen for real. These episodes, Patty Caper and The Great Patty Caper, show what happens when the Krusty Krab's most prized possession falls into the wrong hands, creating some of the series' most suspenseful and dramatic moments. The smaller crime that shocked everyone. Patty Caper starts with what seems like a routine day at the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs calls SpongeBob into his dark office for a secret mission. They've run out of the secret ingredient for the Krabby Patty formula. This isn't the whole formula, just one crucial component, but it's enough to shut down production completely. The setup is pure Mr. Krabs paranoia. He arranges for a SWAT team delivery, complete with sirens and armed guards, just to transport one small bottle of secret ingredient. The security is so intense that you'd think they were moving nuclear weapons instead of a burger ingredient, but Mr. Krabs takes no chances when it comes to his precious formula. SpongeBob takes his mission seriously, promising to guard the ingredient with his life. But when he opens the briefcase, disaster strikes. There's just a hole where the ingredient should be. Someone has cut through the case and stolen the contents, leaving behind only a perfectly circular hole as evidence. What follows is SpongeBob's first real detective story. Armed with Patrick as his bumbling assistant, he sets out to solve the crime by questioning everyone in Bikini Bottom. The investigation takes them to all the usual suspects, each with their own alibis and explanations. Sandy seems innocent enough. She just bought some Krabby Patties and has the receipt to prove it. Plankton appears guilty at first because he's eating a Krabby Patty, but he reveals something shocking. He's figured out most of the secret formula through years of failed theft attempts, and he's been working his way through the alphabet testing different ingredients. He's currently trying raw sewage as the secret ingredient, which explains his disgusting-looking patty. Gary gets accused through one of SpongeBob's wild theories about him digging tunnels and using his slime trail, but it's clearly impossible. Squidward becomes a suspect when Gary mentions seeing him leave with a black case, but he explains he was at a tap dancing contest and won 3rd place. The shocking truth about greed. Just when SpongeBob runs out of suspects, he has to report his failure to Mr. Krabs. This is where the episode takes its darkest turn. Instead of being understanding, Mr. Krabs immediately accuses SpongeBob of stealing the ingredient himself. The accusation is brutal and detailed. Mr. Krabs claims SpongeBob set up a decoy to take the delivery, then swooped in when no one was looking to steal the ingredient and sell it to Plankton for a quick buck. It's a complete betrayal of trust, especially since SpongeBob has proven his loyalty countless times. What makes it worse is that Mr. Krabs has already called the police, who are hiding in a barrel waiting to arrest SpongeBob. The whole thing feels like a setup, as if Mr. Krabs planned to frame SpongeBob from the beginning. But then comes the moment that changes everything. As Mr. Krabs points at SpongeBob to have him arrested, he accidentally reveals that he's holding the stolen secret ingredient in his claw. The very item that was supposedly stolen is right there in Mr. Krabs' possession, exposing him as the real thief. The revelation is shocking because it shows just how far Mr. Krabs' greed has taken him. He stole the ingredient to avoid paying the $1.99 delivery fee, less than $2. He was willing to frame his most loyal employee and have him arrested just to save pocket change. The police immediately arrest Mr. Krabs for grand theft, and his punishment fits the crime perfectly. He's forced to give away Krabby Patties for free all day while being tied to a chair with his eyes held open, forced to watch every free burger being served. The Great Train Mystery. The Great Patty Caper takes the stakes much higher. This isn't about stealing one ingredient, it's about the entire secret formula being sent away and then having the key to retrieve it stolen during a cross-country train journey. The episode begins with SpongeBob discovering they're completely out of Krabby Patties in the freezer. When he and Mr. Krabs try to make more, they realize they've forgotten the recipe. This leads to Mr. Krabs making a decision that seems insane. He sends the secret formula to a bank vault on the other side of the ocean for safekeeping. The reasoning is understandable but flawed. Plankton has been getting more aggressive in his theft attempts, coming closer to success each time. Mr. Krabs figures that putting the formula far away will keep it safe from Plankton's schemes, but he fails to consider that he might actually need the formula to make more patties. The setup becomes even more elaborate when Mr. Krabs gives SpongeBob the only key to the vault and sends him on the Oceanic Express train to retrieve the formula. It's a cross-country journey that feels like something out of a classic adventure movie, complete with diverse passengers and scenic landscapes. When the key goes missing, the real mystery begins when SpongeBob discovers the key has been stolen from his pocket during the train ride. This creates immediate panic because without the key, they can't access the formula, which means no more Krabby Patties ever. The stakes couldn't be higher. SpongeBob transforms into a detective, questioning every passenger on the train. The episode becomes a classic whodunit story, complete with red herrings and false accusations. Each passenger has their own secrets and suspicious behavior, making everyone seem like a potential thief. The investigation leads SpongeBob to uncover other crimes along the way. He accidentally catches the Jewel Triplets gang, who had stolen Neptune's Jewel of the Sea and were disguised as a nanny and baby. He also exposes Orange J. Ruffy, a notorious embezzler. These discoveries add excitement to the mystery while showing that SpongeBob has real detective skills, even if he stumbles onto the truth by accident. Plankton becomes the obvious suspect because of his history of trying to steal the formula. SpongeBob and Patrick search him thoroughly, but he appears innocent. This creates one of the episode's funniest moments, as Patrick puts on gloves to search Plankton, but gets distracted by cleaning a bowl and eating a snack first. The absurd truth and wild chase. The real culprit turns out to be Patrick himself, who took the key out of SpongeBob's pocket while doing his laundry after he had an accident. This revelation is both hilarious and frustrating because Patrick had the key the entire time but didn't think to mention it until the very end of their investigation. But the story isn't over yet. Once they have the key back, Plankton manages to steal it and throws SpongeBob and Patrick off the train. What follows is one of the most action-packed sequences in SpongeBob history, with the duo chasing Plankton through different train cars in an elaborate pursuit scene. Plankton separates the train cars, leaving SpongeBob and Patrick in control of just the engine. What should be a simple matter of stopping the train becomes a disaster when Patrick breaks the brakes, causing the engine to speed out of control. His attempts to stop it only make things worse, including throwing a boulder on the tracks that causes the engine to flip over. The climax involves the runaway engine crashing directly into the bank where the formula is stored. It's a spectacular crash that destroys property and creates a huge bill for damages, but it also stops Plankton from escaping with the formula. The real cost of protection. Both episodes explore the theme of protecting something so carefully that you end up losing it anyway. In Patty Caper, Mr. Krabs' extreme security measures and cheapskate behavior lead him to steal from himself and frame an innocent employee. In The Great Patty Caper, his decision to send the formula far away for safekeeping creates a situation where it's almost lost forever. The episodes also show how greed can corrupt judgment. Mr. Krabs' refusal to pay $1.99 for a delivery leads to his arrest and public humiliation. His paranoia about Plankton causes him to make decisions that put the formula in more danger than it would have been in its original location. The mystery genre in SpongeBob. Both episodes experiment with detective story conventions, turning SpongeBob into an unlikely investigator. In Patty Caper, the mystery is relatively simple: to find out who stole the ingredient by questioning suspects. In The Great Patty Caper, the mystery becomes more complex, involving multiple red herrings, false accusations, and unexpected revelations. SpongeBob makes for an entertaining detective because he approaches investigations with the same enthusiasm he brings to making Krabby Patties. He takes the job seriously and follows logical steps, but his naive nature leads him to some wild theories and assumptions. His interrogation techniques are unconventionally direct, asking suspects specific questions like, "Where were you on the night of January 16th?" The comedy comes from watching SpongeBob try to be serious and professional while maintaining his characteristic optimism and innocence. He wants to solve the crime and help his boss, but he lacks the cynicism and suspicion that usually drive detective stories. The supporting characters as suspects. These episodes give supporting characters more depth by making them potential suspects. Sandy's scientific background makes her seem capable of sophisticated theft. Plankton's obsession with the formula makes him the obvious choice. Squidward's general grumpiness could mask criminal intentions. Even Gary becomes a suspect through SpongeBob's overactive imagination. The episodes reveal interesting details about these characters. We learn that Plankton has systematically worked through possible ingredients from A to R, showing a more methodical approach than his usual schemes. Sandy's receipt-keeping shows her practical, organized nature. Squidward's tap dancing hobby adds another layer to his character beyond just being grumpy and artistic. The formula's true value. Both episodes emphasize just how important the secret formula is to Bikini Bottom's economy and social structure. Without Krabby Patties, customers riot at the Krusty Krab. The entire community seems dependent on this one recipe, showing how Mr. Krabs has built not just a business, but a cultural institution. The episodes reveal some actual ingredients for the first time. In The Great Patty Caper, we learn that the formula contains flour, barnacle shavings, and turmeric. These mundane ingredients make the formula's secrecy seem almost absurd, but they also ground the fantasy in recognizable cooking components. The secret ingredient in Patty Caper remains mysterious, but we learn it costs only $1.99 and starts with a letter between R and Z. This specificity makes Plankton's methodical approach seem more realistic while maintaining the formula's mystique. Action and adventure elements. The Great Patty Caper stands out for its action sequences, which are unusual in SpongeBob's typically gentler world. The train chase feels like something from an adventure movie, complete with dangerous stunts and high-speed pursuits. Patrick's attempts to stop the runaway engine create genuine tension, even though they're played for comedy. The crash into the bank provides a spectacular climax that feels earned after the long build-up. The destruction is significant enough to create real consequences. ET&TCO, Mr. Krabs ends up paying for all the damage, learning that his cost-cutting measures ultimately cost him much more than they saved. Mr. Krabs' comeuppance. Both episodes feature Mr. Krabs facing serious consequences for his actions, which was relatively rare in the series. In Patty Caper, his arrest and forced free burger giveaway represent perfect justice for his greedy betrayal. In The Great Patty Caper, having to pay for the bank damage teaches him that his protective paranoia can backfire spectacularly. These consequences feel satisfying because they directly relate to Mr. Krabs' character flaws. His cheapness in Patty Caper leads to public humiliation and financial loss. His overcautious protection of the formula in The Great Patty Caper results in massive property damage costs. The episode's legacy. These two episodes stand out in SpongeBob's catalog for actually delivering on the threat that drives so many other stories. Instead of another failed Plankton scheme, we get real theft with real consequences. The formula and its components are genuinely at risk, creating stakes that feel meaningful. The episodes also showcase different storytelling styles within the SpongeBob format. Patty Caper is a more intimate mystery focused on character relationships and trust. The Great Patty Caper is an adventure epic with action sequences and elaborate set pieces. Both episodes prove that SpongeBob can handle more complex narratives while maintaining its characteristic humor and heart. The mystery elements add structure to the chaos, while the action sequences provide excitement without losing the show's essential innocence. The episodes remain popular with fans because they deliver payoffs that other episodes only tease. After watching Plankton fail countless times, seeing him actually steal the key creates genuine suspense. After watching Mr. Krabs protect his formula so carefully, seeing him lose control of it feels like a natural consequence of his obsessive behavior. In the end, both episodes reinforce the series' core values while exploring their darker implications. The formula represents security and success, but the obsessive need to protect it can lead to paranoia and betrayal. Trust and friendship prove more valuable than any secret recipe, even when that recipe seems to be the foundation of everything important in Bikini Bottom. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have employee wages and working conditions, the dark truth of Krusty Krab employment. Employee wages and working conditions, the dark truth of Krusty Krab employment. Behind the cheerful facade of SpongeBob SquarePants lies one of television's most disturbing workplace horror stories. While viewers see SpongeBob's infectious enthusiasm and the restaurant's bustling success, the reality of employment at the Krusty Krab reveals a systematic pattern of exploitation, wage theft, and labor violations that would make even the most hardened corporate executives blush. Mr. Krabs operates what can only be described as a modern-day sweatshop disguised as a family-friendly fast food restaurant, the wage scandal that never ends. The most shocking aspect of Krusty Krab employment isn't just how little SpongeBob and Squidward are paid, it's how often they're not paid at all. Throughout the series, Mr. Krabs has demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to avoid paying his employees through increasingly creative and illegal methods. In Squid on Strike, the true depths of Mr. Krabs' wage theft are revealed. When profits drop by a measly $3, he doesn't look at ways to increase revenue or cut operational costs. Instead, he hands his employees bills instead of paychecks. Squidward's paycheck includes charges of $1 for breathing, $2 for existing, and $10 for standing at the cash register, literally his job description. The itemized list reads like a parody of corporate greed, but the implications are genuinely disturbing. Mr. Krabs is charging his employees for basic biological functions while they're working to make him money. This isn't just below minimum wage, it's negative wages, where employees owe money for the privilege of working. SpongeBob's reaction reveals the psychological manipulation at play. He's so eager to please that he actually tries to pay Mr. Krabs, saying, "I think this should cover all my nonsense," and even adding extra money for tying his shoe. This shows how thoroughly SpongeBob has internalized the idea that his mere existence is somehow costing his employer money. The fake money scheme. Perhaps the most outrageous wage violation comes in one-course meal, where it's revealed that Mr. Krabs pays SpongeBob with completely fake currency called wacky bucks. These bills look like regular dollars but feature Mr. Krabs' face instead of a president, the Krusty Krab in the background, and most tellingly, not legal tender printed at the bottom. The scene where this is exposed is particularly devastating. Pearl asks for mall money, and SpongeBob eagerly offers to contribute his earnings. When Pearl points out that the money isn't real, SpongeBob proudly declares that it's even better because it's what Mr. Krabs pays him with. His genuine enthusiasm about receiving worthless paper reveals just how thoroughly he's been manipulated. This isn't just underpaying employees, it's paying them with monopoly money while they generate real revenue. Every Krabby Patty SpongeBob makes brings in legitimate currency that goes straight to Mr. Krabs' vault, while SpongeBob receives colored paper in return. It's a level of exploitation that borders on the surreal. Below minimum wage as standard policy. When the Krusty Krab does pay real money, the amounts are deliberately kept below legal minimums. In Dying for Pie, Squidward explicitly states that he gets paid minimum wage, which in the context of other episodes appears to be a generous estimate. Bummer Vacation provides one of the most shocking revelations about SpongeBob's wages. When Mr. Krabs holds up a dime, SpongeBob says it's more than he makes in a year. Even accounting for cartoon exaggeration, this suggests an annual salary that wouldn't cover a single meal. For context, minimum wage workers in the real world make thousands of times more than what SpongeBob apparently earns. The pay disparity becomes even more absurd in Skill Crane, where payday reveals the full extent of the wage gap. SpongeBob receives a small envelope of money, while Squidward gets a huge bag of quarters. This suggests that not only are both employees underpaid, but Mr. Krabs deliberately creates inequality between them, possibly to prevent them from organizing together. The philosophy of exploitation. The Krusty Krab training video reveals the ideological framework behind this exploitation. Employees are taught to follow the poop philosophy, people order our patties. This reduces workers to mere extensions of the ordering process, not human beings deserving fair compensation for their labor. The training emphasizes that employees exist solely to serve customers and generate profit for Mr. Krabs. There's no mention of worker rights, fair wages, or basic dignity. The very acronym treats employees like waste, reinforcing the idea that they're disposable and worthless. The video also establishes the emergency procedures that employees must follow, which primarily involve protecting Mr. Krabs' property and profits rather than ensuring worker safety. This sets the tone for a workplace where human welfare is subordinate to financial interests. Working conditions that violate basic rights. Beyond wage theft, the Krusty Krab operates under conditions that would horrify any labor inspector. The restaurant is chronically understaffed, with only 2 employees handling every aspect of operations from cooking to cleaning to customer service. According to various episodes, SpongeBob and Squidward work 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no days off. Mr. Krabs explicitly states that he doesn't understand that horrible word when someone suggests a vacation day. This creates a mandatory 56-hour work week without overtime pay, breaks, or time off, conditions that violate every modern labor law. The physical workspace itself is poorly maintained and potentially dangerous. Mr. Krabs consistently refuses to spend money on repairs or upgrades, instead using makeshift solutions like patches and duct tape. In several episodes, the building literally falls apart while employees are working, yet there's never any concern for worker safety. The kitchen equipment is outdated and often malfunctioning, but employees are expected to work around these hazards without complaint. When safety issues arise, the solution is always for workers to adapt rather than for Mr. Krabs to invest in proper equipment. The psychology of exploitation. What makes the Krusty Krab's labor practices particularly insidious is how they exploit the psychological differences between SpongeBob and Squidward. SpongeBob's natural enthusiasm and desire to please make him the perfect victim for manipulation, while Squidward's cynicism leads to resignation rather than resistance. SpongeBob genuinely believes that working for free or even paying to work demonstrates his dedication and value as an employee. His love for cooking and serving customers has been weaponized against him, creating a situation where he views exploitation as appreciation. This psychological manipulation is perhaps more cruel than simple wage theft because it makes the victim complicit in their own exploitation. Squidward, meanwhile, represents the burned-out worker who has given up fighting the system. He knows he's being exploited but feels powerless to change it. His half-hearted attempts at resistance, like the strike in Squid on Strike, typically backfire and leave him in worse conditions than before. The strike that revealed everything. Squid on Strike serves as the most comprehensive examination of labor relations at the Krusty Krab. When Squidward finally organizes a strike to protest their treatment, the episode reveals both the power and limitations of worker organizing in the face of systematic exploitation. The strike initially fails because SpongeBob doesn't understand the concept and accidentally undermines their efforts. His innocence about labor organizing reflects how thoroughly he's been conditioned to accept exploitation as normal. When he makes a sign reading Krusty Krab Funfair instead of unfair, it attracts customers rather than protesters. Mr. Krabs' response to the strike reveals his true attitude toward his employees. Rather than addressing their concerns, he immediately hires teenage replacement workers and taunts the strikers about how easily they can be replaced. This demonstrates that he views workers as completely disposable and interchangeable. The strike's ultimate failure comes when SpongeBob takes Squidward's metaphorical language too literally and actually dismantles the restaurant board by board. This destruction gives Mr. Krabs leverage to force him back to work under even worse conditions. They now have to work forever to pay off the damage costs. Physical and emotional abuse. The exploitation goes beyond wages into outright abuse. In the Krusty Sponge, Mr. Krabs forces Squidward to pull a judge around in a pedal-powered train while being whipped like livestock. This scene is played for comedy, but it depicts literal forced labor under physically abusive conditions. Mr. Krabs regularly threatens his employees with termination, violence, or worse, working conditions. He uses their need for employment as a weapon to extract compliance with increasingly unreasonable demands. The constant threat of job loss creates an atmosphere of fear that prevents workers from asserting their rights. The emotional manipulation is equally severe. Mr. Krabs alternates between treating SpongeBob like a valuable family member and a worthless burden, creating an unstable psychological environment that keeps SpongeBob constantly trying to prove his worth through unpaid labor. The captive workforce. Several episodes reveal that Mr. Krabs has literally imprisoned employees and customers at the Krusty Krab. In fear of a Krabby Patty, he forces SpongeBob to work 24 hours a day for weeks without sleep or breaks. When SpongeBob begins hallucinating from exhaustion, Mr. Krabs' only concern is maintaining productivity. Chum Caverns shows Mr. Krabs locking customers inside the restaurant to prevent them from leaving for competitors. This false imprisonment extends to employees, who are often prevented from leaving even when their shifts are over or when they're sick. The pattern suggests that Mr. Krabs views the Krusty Krab as his personal fiefdom, where normal laws and rights don't apply. Employees aren't workers with rights, but property to be used as he sees fit. The economics of exploitation. The financial disparity between Mr. Krabs and his employees is staggering. While SpongeBob makes less than a dime per year, Mr. Krabs regularly bathes in swimming pools full of money. The restaurant is clearly profitable, but none of that success trickles down to the workers who generate it. Mr. Krabs' wealth accumulation is entirely dependent on paying his employees nothing while charging customers premium prices for their labor. The Krabby Patty costs several dollars, but the person who makes it earns almost nothing. This represents a profit margin that would be impossible in any legitimate business. The show regularly depicts Mr. Krabs making thousands of dollars in a single day, while his employees struggle to afford basic necessities. This extreme wealth inequality isn't treated as a systemic problem but as a natural state of affairs. The broader social commentary. While played for comedy, the Krusty Krab's labor practices serve as a dark mirror of real-world workplace exploitation. The show's exaggerated scenarios highlight actual problems in the service industry: wage theft, unpaid overtime, hostile working conditions, and the psychological manipulation of vulnerable workers. SpongeBob's cheerful acceptance of exploitation reflects how many workers, especially young or inexperienced ones, can be conditioned to accept unfair treatment as normal. His gratitude for being employed at all, regardless of conditions, mirrors the mindset that keeps many real workers trapped in exploitative situations. Squidward's bitter resignation represents the longer-term psychological effects of workplace abuse. His cynicism and depression aren't character flaws but natural responses to years of systematic mistreatment. The cycle of abuse. The most disturbing aspect of the Krusty Krab's employment practices is how they perpetuate themselves. SpongeBob's enthusiasm for his job, despite the terrible conditions, sends the message that exploitation is acceptable as long as workers remain positive about it. Mr. Krabs faces no consequences for his labor violations because his victims either don't recognize the abuse, SpongeBob, or feel powerless to stop it, Squidward. This creates a system where exploitation becomes normalized and self-perpetuating. The few times employees do push back, like in Squid on strike, they end up in worse conditions than before. This teaches viewers that resistance is futile and that workers should be grateful for whatever they're given, no matter how little. The real cost of cheap burgers. The Krusty Krab's success is built entirely on the unpaid labor of its employees. Every popular burger, every satisfied customer, and every dollar of profit comes at the direct expense of worker welfare. The restaurant's reputation for quality and value is only possible because the people who create that value receive nothing in return. This dynamic reflects real-world businesses that keep prices low by refusing to pay living wages. The true cost of cheap goods is hidden in the exploitation of workers who can't afford to shop at the businesses they serve. The show's treatment of this exploitation as comedy rather than tragedy reveals how normalized these practices have become in society. What should be shocking violations of human dignity are presented as amusing character quirks. The impossible dream of fair employment. Throughout the series, there are brief moments where fair employment seems possible. When other characters temporarily run the restaurant, they sometimes treat workers better. But these interludes are always temporary, and the status quo of exploitation always returns. This pattern suggests that the problem isn't just Mr. Krabs as an individual, but the entire economic system that rewards exploitation and punishes fairness. Any business owner who tried to pay fair wages would be undercut by competitors who don't, creating a race to the bottom that hurts all workers. The show's reluctance to imagine permanent solutions to workplace exploitation reflects a broader cultural inability to envision alternatives to current economic arrangements. The Krusty Krab's labor practices aren't presented as problems to be solved, but as permanent features of the working world. In the end, the Krusty Krab serves as both comedy and cautionary tale. While SpongeBob's optimism in the face of exploitation provides laughs, it also normalizes a level of workplace abuse that should be universally condemned. The dark truth of Krusty Krab employment is that it's not really that different from many real workplaces, just more honest about its complete disregard for worker welfare. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Pretty Patties' rise and fall, SpongeBob's independent restaurant empire. In the annals of Bikini Bottom business history, no venture has risen so high and fallen so catastrophically as SpongeBob's Pretty Patties empire. What began as a desperate attempt to save the failing Krusty Krab transformed into an overnight sensation that temporarily redefined the entire fast food landscape of the underwater city. Yet beneath the rainbow-colored success lay a horrifying truth that would ultimately destroy everything SpongeBob had built. The genesis of desperation. The story begins with the Krusty Krab in its darkest hour. The restaurant had gone 36 days without a single customer, covered in dust, cobwebs, and even housing a skeleton. The once thriving establishment had become a graveyard of broken dreams and financial ruin. When a starving customer finally crawled through the doors, claiming he hadn't eaten in 3 days, the situation seemed hopeful. But this desperate soul refused SpongeBob's offer of a free Krabby Patty, declaring that there was no pizzazz in the Krusty Krab, and resuming his search for food, water, and atmosphere. This crushing rejection revealed that the problem wasn't just hunger. Customers wanted something the Krusty Krab couldn't provide. Mr. Krabs tried various desperate schemes to attract customers, including his most bizarre attempt to bury himself alive as a publicity stunt. But even this morbid spectacle failed when news of a talking dog at the rival Shell Shack drew the crowd away, leaving Mr. Krabs literally buried in his own failure. The birth of innovation. In this moment of complete desperation, SpongeBob approached his boss with what would become the most revolutionary idea in Bikini Bottom culinary history. SpongeBob showed him a green patty, which Mr. Krabs immediately assumed was spoiled and tried to incinerate with a flamethrower. But SpongeBob emerged from the flames wearing a fireproof suit and revealed his true innovation: Pretty Patties. Krabby Patties, painted in 6 designer colors. The concept was simple yet radical. Take the beloved Krabby Patty recipe and add visual appeal through vibrant colors. Mr. Krabs and Squidward's reaction was swift and brutal. They burst into mocking laughter, creating increasingly ridiculous variations like sequin milkshakes and bow tie French fries to demonstrate how absurd they found SpongeBob's idea. Their mockery was so cruel and persistent that it drove SpongeBob to tears and ultimately to quit his job. The entrepreneur's journey. Deeply hurt but not defeated, SpongeBob made a decision that would change everything. He declared he would open his own restaurant and prove his former employers wrong. With Patrick's help, SpongeBob set up a stand in front of his house to sell his Pretty Patties, transforming from employee to independent business owner overnight. The early days were challenging. Their first potential customer laughed at the green Pretty Patty just as Mr. Krabs and Squidward had done. SpongeBob was about to give up, convinced that his former boss had been right about the idea being worthless. But then fate intervened in the form of customer preference. The customer noticed a patty in purple, proclaimed it was his favorite color, and declared Pretty Patties to be the best idea ever. This single moment of validation launched what would become the most successful food venture in Bikini Bottom history. The explosion of success. What happened next defied all expectations and business logic. The success wasn't gradual, it was instantaneous and overwhelming. Word spread through Bikini Bottom like wildfire, creating a cultural phenomenon that went far beyond simple food service. The Pretty Patties appealed to customers on multiple levels that the traditional Krusty Krab had failed to address. Customers loved that they matched their purses, reminded them of home, and offered personalization options that regular burgers couldn't provide. The colorful patties became fashion accessories, cultural statements, and expressions of individuality all rolled into one. The business metrics were staggering. Mr. Krabs noted that he had never seen a line like this before, especially not one with 46,853 customers waiting. To put this in perspective, the entire population of Bikini Bottom in other episodes is shown to be around 538 people, meaning SpongeBob had somehow attracted customers from far beyond the city limits. The Pretty Patties came in an astounding variety of colors that kept expanding as demand grew. The initial 6 designer colors quickly multiplied to include red, purple, yellow, green, fuchsia, orange, and even exotic variations like plaid patterns that matched the Scottish fish's kilt. Each new color created fresh excitement and drew even more customers to the stand. The money problem. The success created an unusual problem that revealed SpongeBob's fundamental difference from typical business owners. SpongeBob admitted on television that he and Patrick didn't know what to do with all the money they were making. They had considered burying, shredding, or even burning the cash. This confession horrified Mr. Krabs, whose eye stalks literally inflated and burst at the thought of destroying money. But SpongeBob's solution was even more shocking to the profit-obsessed Krab. They set up a free money stand to give the money back to customers so they could keep purchasing the Pretty Patties. This approach revealed SpongeBob's pure motivations. He wasn't driven by profit or personal gain. He simply wanted to share his creation and make customers happy. The money was almost an unwanted byproduct of doing what he loved. Patrick stood at his own stand with a bamboo dollar sign and "free money" written on it, happily handing out filled paper sacks to customers who immediately got back in line. The media sensation. The Pretty Patties phenomenon quickly became a media sensation that dominated Bikini Bottom's news cycle. Television coverage showed the incredible crowds and interviewed customers about what made the colored patties so appealing. 3 women fish held out their purses to compare with the Pretty Patties, explaining that they matched their accessories perfectly. A Scottish fish held up a plaid Pretty Patty, declaring it reminded him of home while wearing his traditional kilt. Larry the lobster flexed his muscles and proclaimed that Pretty Patties rule. The enthusiasm was genuine and infectious, creating a cultural movement around the simple concept of colored food. When asked to explain his success, SpongeBob could only respond with a long I don't know. His genuine confusion about his own achievement demonstrated that the success had surprised even him. The organic nature of the phenomenon made it even more powerful than any calculated marketing campaign could have been. The corporate takeover. Mr. Krabs' arrival at the Pretty Patty stand marked the beginning of the end for SpongeBob's independent empire. Witnessing the massive success firsthand, Mr. Krabs could no longer ignore what he had dismissed as a stupid idea. The thousands of customers and endless lines of money represented everything he had dreamed of but failed to achieve. Mr. Krabs meekly congratulated SpongeBob on his success, and while SpongeBob was proud of his achievement, he admitted that he missed his days at the Krusty Krab. This moment of vulnerability gave Mr. Krabs the opening he needed to orchestrate a complete takeover. The deal seemed perfect for both parties. Mr. Krabs persuaded SpongeBob to transfer the rights to the Pretty Patty stand in exchange for the key to the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob got to return to his beloved workplace, while Mr. Krabs inherited a proven money-making machine with tens of thousands of eager customers. SpongeBob's joy at reclaiming the Krusty Krab was genuine and touching. He spent the rest of the day frolicking inside and outside his restored restaurant, completely satisfied with what seemed like a perfect arrangement. He was particularly excited to return to simple pleasures like rubbing two pickle slices together to make them squeak. The horrifying revelation. The true nature of the Pretty Patties was revealed the next morning in one of the most shocking twists in SpongeBob history. As Mr. Krabs eagerly prepared to cash in, the customers arrived angrily demanding refunds. They complained that the Pretty Patties had an unfortunate side effect. Whatever color they ate caused a random part of their body and tongue to change to said color. The revelation was presented through increasingly disturbing examples. One customer demonstrated a glow in the dark tongue after turning off the lights, having eaten a glow in the dark patty. Others showed off purple faces, plaid legs under kilts, and other bizarre transformations. A fish with a Scottish accent lifted his kilt to reveal that his legs had turned plaid, matching the plaid patty he had consumed. 3 women customers displayed their tongues, which had developed various patterns and colors. One showed a polka-dotted tongue, though the dots seemed to come and go inconsistently. All 46,853 customers wanted their money back, representing a financial disaster of unprecedented proportions. The science behind the horror. The episodes provide subtle but chilling clues about what caused these transformations. Before revealing the Pretty Patties, SpongeBob says, "It's painted meat." This foreshadows the patties' side effects, as SpongeBob most likely used actual paint to color the patties, and paint is dangerous to be consumed. This detail transforms the entire Pretty Patty phenomenon from innocent innovation to food safety nightmare. SpongeBob had been serving actual paint to thousands of customers, causing permanent genetic alterations through toxic chemical exposure. His enthusiasm and good intentions had blinded him to the dangerous nature of his creation. The fact that the side effects didn't manifest immediately made the situation even more sinister. Customers enjoyed their colorful meals, spread word of their quality, and returned for more, all while toxic substances accumulated in their systems. The delayed reaction meant that thousands of people were exposed before anyone realized the danger. The collapse and mob justice. When the truth emerged, the Pretty Patty empire didn't just fail, it exploded into violent chaos. The customers formed an angry, rainbow-colored mob and began chasing Mr. Krabs, leaving a colorful trail behind them. The very people who had made the business successful now sought revenge for their poisoning. Mr. Krabs' attempted escape revealed the poetic justice of his situation. He He ran to the Krusty Krab and tried to unlock the door, but he remembered that he gave his key to SpongeBob, who was currently preoccupied with the sound of his beloved squeaky pickles. The greedy takeover that had seemed so clever now trapped him outside his former safe haven. Under the cover of darkness, the cheapskate Mr. Krabs hastily fled, abandoning any pretense of taking responsibility for the disaster. But the angry mob pursued him relentlessly, their rainbow-colored bodies serving as living evidence of his business's toxic legacy. Mr. Krabs unsuccessfully tried to get SpongeBob's attention as he could not hear him over the noise of the squeaking pickles, all while the mob continued to pursue him. This final image perfectly captured the complete reversal of fortune, the successful businessman reduced to a desperate fugitive, while his former employee enjoyed simple pleasures and blissful ignorance. The aftermath and implications. The Pretty Patties incident represents one of the largest public health disasters in Bikini Bottom history. Tens of thousands of people were permanently physically altered by consuming toxic food products. The episode ends with the pursuit ongoing, leaving the ultimate resolution unclear. For SpongeBob, the revelation must have been devastating when he eventually learned the truth. His innocent creativity had caused widespread harm to the very people he wanted to make happy. The knowledge that his colorful innovation was actually a poison would have shattered his worldview about the relationship between creativity and helping others. The episode raises disturbing questions about food safety regulation in Bikini Bottom. How was SpongeBob able to serve paint to customers without any health department intervention? The lack of oversight allowed a toxic product to reach thousands of consumers before its dangers were discovered, suggesting massive systemic failures in consumer protection. The business lessons. The Pretty Patties saga offers several sobering lessons about entrepreneurship and business ethics. Innovation without proper safety testing can lead to catastrophic consequences. The pressure to create novelty products can blind creators to fundamental safety concerns, especially when initial success creates momentum that discourages questioning. SpongeBob's initial success came from identifying an unmet customer need, the desire for personalization and visual appeal in food. His failure came from prioritizing aesthetics over safety. The bright colors that drove customer demand were literally toxic, demonstrating how surface appeal can mask fundamental flaws. Mr. Krabs' role demonstrates how greed can lead to poor decision-making. His initial dismissal of the idea cost him the opportunity to properly develop and test the product. His later takeover put him in position to bear responsibility for the consequences without understanding the risks he was assuming. The innovation legacy. Despite its horrific ending, the Pretty Patties concept proved that there was demand for innovative food products in Bikini Bottom. The instant success showed that customers were hungry for alternatives to traditional offerings. The failure wasn't in the concept, but in the execution and safety testing. The episode suggests that the Krusty Krab's business problems weren't just about competition, but about failing to evolve with customer preferences. The starving customer who refused a free Krabby Patty because of no pizzazz represented changing market demands that traditional businesses ignored at their peril. The success also demonstrated the power of word-of-mouth marketing and authentic enthusiasm. SpongeBob's genuine belief in his product, combined with customers' immediate satisfaction, created organic growth that no advertising campaign could have matched. The tragedy is that this authentic success was built on a fundamentally unsafe foundation. The cultural impact. The Pretty Patties phenomenon revealed deep currents in Bikini Bottom society about the desire for individuality and self-expression. Customers didn't just want food, they wanted food that reflected their personalities, matched their accessories, and connected them to their cultural heritage, like the Scottish Fish's plaid patty. This hunger for personalization and meaning in consumer goods reflects broader social trends that SpongeBob had inadvertently tapped into. The Pretty Patties became more than food. They were identity statements, fashion accessories, and cultural symbols all rolled into one colorful package. The speed with which the trend spread and the passionate customer loyalty it generated shows how powerful authentic innovation can be when it meets genuine consumer needs. The tragedy is that this powerful cultural phenomenon was built on toxic foundations that made it unsustainable. The regulatory response. The Pretty Patties disaster should have prompted sweeping food safety reforms in Bikini Bottom. The fact that paint-based food products reached market suggests massive regulatory failures that endangered public health. The episode implies that profit motives took precedence over consumer protection in the local business environment. The lack of immediate government response to the mass poisoning reveals either incompetent authorities or a business-friendly regulatory environment that prioritized commerce over public safety. Either scenario represents a systemic failure that enabled the disaster and likely made similar incidents possible in the future. The human cost. Beyond the business and regulatory implications, the Pretty Patties incident represents a human tragedy. Thousands of people were permanently disfigured by a product they trusted. Their rainbow-colored transformations turned them into living reminders of corporate irresponsibility and regulatory failure. The glow-in-the-dark tongue, purple faces, and plaid legs weren't just cosmetic changes, they were evidence of serious chemical poisoning that could have had far worse internal effects. The visible transformations might have been the least of the health problems caused by paint consumption. The customer's trust in SpongeBob's product made their betrayal even more painful. They had embraced the Pretty Patties enthusiastically, spreading positive word of mouth and returning for repeat purchases. Their loyalty was rewarded with permanent physical disfigurement. The entrepreneur's burden. SpongeBob's journey from employee to business owner to unwitting poisoner represents one of the darkest character arcs in the series. His pure motivations made the outcome even more tragic. He genuinely wanted to help people and ended up harming them on a massive scale. The psychological impact on SpongeBob would have been enormous. Learning that his creative expression had caused widespread suffering would have challenged his fundamental beliefs about innovation and helping others. The knowledge that good intentions can lead to terrible outcomes is a heavy burden for any entrepreneur. The contrast between SpongeBob's innocent joy at creating something beautiful and the horrible consequences of his creation highlights the complex relationship between innovation and responsibility. Even the most well-intentioned creators must consider the potential negative consequences of their work. The economics of disaster. The financial implications of the Pretty Patties disaster were staggering. With 46,853 customers demanding refunds, Mr. Krabs faced a liability that would have bankrupted most businesses. His attempt to flee rather than take responsibility shows how economic incentives can encourage irresponsible behavior. The incident also demonstrates how quickly a successful business can collapse when fundamental flaws are revealed. The Pretty Patties went from the most popular food in Bikini Bottom to a toxic liability overnight, showing the fragility of businesses built on unsafe foundations. The media's role. The television coverage of the Pretty Patties phenomenon shows how media can amplify both success and failure. The same news outlets that celebrated SpongeBob's innovation would likely have covered the subsequent disaster, though the episode ends before showing this reversal. The enthusiastic media coverage helped drive the initial success by legitimizing the trend and encouraging more customers to try the products. This demonstrates the responsibility that media organizations have to investigate the products and trends they promote. The technological implications. SpongeBob's use of paint as a food coloring agent represents a fundamental misunderstanding of food science and safety. His artistic background led him to treat food like a canvas, applying techniques appropriate for art but dangerous for consumption. This highlights the importance of scientific literacy and proper training in food preparation. SpongeBob's creativity was valuable, but it needed to be guided by knowledge of food safety and proper ingredients to avoid causing harm. The long-term consequences. The Pretty Patties disaster would have had lasting effects on Bikini Bottom's food industry and business culture. Future entrepreneurs would face increased scrutiny and regulation, while customers would be more skeptical of innovative food products. The incident would also have damaged SpongeBob's reputation and self-confidence as a creator. The knowledge that his innovation had caused widespread harm would likely have made him more cautious about future creative endeavors, potentially stifling beneficial innovations. The Pretty Patties empire rose and fell in a matter of days, but its impact lasted much longer. It demonstrated that even the most successful business ventures can hide devastating flaws, and that the line between innovation and disaster is often thinner than it appears. In SpongeBob's colorful world, the brightest ideas sometimes cast the darkest shadows, and the most innocent intentions can lead to the most harmful consequences. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Nasty Patty incident, when the Krusty Krab nearly became a crime scene. In the dark corners of SpongeBob SquarePants episodes lies one of the most disturbing tales of food tampering, mistaken identity, and potential manslaughter ever to grace children's television. Nasty Patty stands as perhaps the series' darkest entry, transforming the usually cheerful Krusty Krab into what nearly became a crime scene, complete with food poisoning, body disposal, and a cover-up conspiracy that would make seasoned criminals blush. A storm-darkened beginning. The episode opens ominously on a dark and stormy night, immediately setting a tone unlike any other SpongeBob adventure. The French narrator's introduction warns viewers they're about to witness the time when Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob thought they killed a health inspector, framing this as a story worth telling on such a foreboding evening. The scene then shifts to a bright sunny morning at the Krusty Krab, creating a deceptive sense of normalcy before the horror unfolds. Mr. Krabs is enjoying his regular money bath when an unfamiliar scent hits his nostrils, not the usual smell of customers or food, but something that strikes immediate fear into his greedy heart. He recognizes it instantly, the unmistakable aroma of a health inspector. The arrival of Andy Yellowtail. Health Inspector Andy Yellowtail arrives for what appears to be a routine surprise inspection. He's a professional-looking purple fish wearing a navy blue suit, red tie, and brown fedora with an official star-shaped badge. His presence immediately transforms the atmosphere from casual dining establishment to high-stakes examination. Mr. Krabs' panic is immediate and overwhelming. He explains to SpongeBob that even one small health violation could shut them down permanently. This sets up the desperate mindset that will drive the catastrophic decisions to follow. The Krusty Krab's future hangs in the balance of this single inspection. Determined to impress, Mr. Krabs instructs SpongeBob to give the inspector one of everything on the menu. What follows is an absurd feeding frenzy as they stuff Andy with an endless parade of questionable menu items, including crusty kelp dogs, buttered barnacles, powdered driftwood, fresh sludge pudding, diet red tide, and fried flotsam. The inspector proves to be a dedicated professional with an enormous appetite, consuming everything placed before him without complaint. After working through the entire menu, he makes one simple final request that will seal his fate: one ordinary Krabby Patty to complete his inspection. The news that changed everything. As SpongeBob prepares what should have been a simple, routine Krabby Patty, a television news report interrupts the peaceful kitchen atmosphere. The realistic fish head announces breaking news that sends shockwaves through the restaurant. A man has been passing himself off as a health inspector to con restaurants into giving him free food. Mr. Krabs' reaction is volcanic. The thought of giving away free food, his absolute worst nightmare, triggers a rage that completely overwhelms his judgment. Despite having no evidence whatsoever, he immediately concludes that their inspector must be the imposter. SpongeBob suggests they simply talk to the inspector and explain the situation, but Mr. Krabs dismisses this reasonable approach entirely. The fury consumes both of them as they create increasingly elaborate insults for their supposed deceiver. SpongeBob coins the term "smeckledorfed," which Mr. Krabs acknowledges isn't even a real word, but agrees with anyway. Their anger has reached the point where logic and vocabulary have become irrelevant. The birth of the nasty patty, driven by rage and greed, Mr. Krabs conceives a plan that crosses every line of food safety, business ethics, and basic human decency. He will create a deliberately contaminated Krabby Patty designed to make the supposed fake inspector violently ill. When SpongeBob shows hesitation, Mr. Krabs issues an ultimatum. "Join me, boy, or you're fired." What follows is one of the most disturbing food preparation sequences in television history. The duo systematically contaminates a Krabby Patty with ingredients that would be considered biological weapons in any civilized society. They add volcano sauce so spicy it would burn through normal stomachs, seahorse radish, described as the gnarliest stuff in the ocean, and Mr. Krabs' own toenail clippings for a personal touch of revulsion. But they don't stop there. SpongeBob drops the entire patty into the restaurant's toilet, soaking it with contaminated water before Mr. Krabs dries it with his unwashed gym socks. The final product is so horrifying that even its creators can barely look at it. SpongeBob christens their creation the Nasty Patty, a name that perfectly captures its toxic essence. The moment of truth. As the inspector waits patiently for his final menu item, SpongeBob delivers the Nasty Patty with false cheer. The inspector, still professional and unsuspecting, prepares to take his first bite of what he believes is a normal Krabby Patty. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob watch from the kitchen window, anticipating their victim's suffering with sadistic glee. But fate intervenes in the most unexpected way. Just as the inspector opens his mouth to bite the toxic patty, a fly buzzes directly into his throat. He begins choking violently, drops the nasty patty onto the floor, and slips on the spilled burger. The impact with the table knocks him unconscious, and the fly exits his mouth. From their vantage point in the kitchen, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob witness what appears to be their plan working perfectly. They see the inspector convulsing, falling, and lying motionless. Their laughter is maniacal as they believe they're watching him suffer the consequences of eating their poisoned creation. They have no idea he never actually consumed a single bite. The horrifying realization. As the duo celebrates their apparent success, another news bulletin delivers information that transforms their sick victory into absolute horror. The real fake health inspector has been arrested, and his picture is displayed on screen. He's a completely different fish, a grayish-brown, brutish-looking character with bags under his eyes, facial hair, and a scar on his face. The realization hits them like a physical blow. Their inspector was legitimate, and they have just apparently murdered an innocent man doing his job. The laughter dies instantly as the full weight of their actions crashes down upon them. They have committed what they believe to be accidental manslaughter, all because of a mistaken assumption driven by greed. Mr. Krabs immediately begins shifting blame, claiming SpongeBob fed the tainted patty and would face prison alone. When SpongeBob points out that it was Mr. Krabs' idea, the crab retorts that SpongeBob could have talked him out of it. This victim blaming reveals the depth of Mr. Krabs' moral corruption when faced with consequences for his actions. The cover-up conspiracy. Faced with what they believe to be a corpse, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob make a decision that transforms them from accidental poisoners into active criminals. Rather than call for help or report the incident, they choose to dispose of the body and cover up their crime. This calculated decision to hide evidence shows premeditation that would make their case far worse in any court of law. They carry the unconscious inspector to a hill and begin digging a shallow grave. The scene becomes even more disturbing as SpongeBob conducts a brief funeral service, wailing dramatically over a man he never knew while simultaneously participating in the disposal of his corpse. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. They mourn their victim while actively working to hide his body. During the burial process, SpongeBob unearths a large rock and accidentally strikes the semi-conscious inspector in the head, delivering another blow that could have been fatal. The inspector, who was beginning to regain consciousness, is knocked out again, Their incompetence nearly turns an unconscious victim into an actual murder victim. Police intervention and escalation. Just as they finish their burial, 2 police officers arrive and offer to drive them back to the Krusty Krab. The irony is crushing. Law enforcement literally offers assistance to the criminals, unaware that they're helping with a cover-up. The officer's casual demeanor creates a false sense of security that makes the situation even more tense. As it begins to rain, the dirt covering the inspector turns to mud, and his body slides back down the hill. Mr. Krabs instructs SpongeBob to put the body in the trunk of the police car, essentially using law enforcement as unwitting accomplices in evidence disposal. The inspector is now being transported by the very people who should be investigating his disappearance. During the ride back, Mr. Krabs tries to communicate in code, referring to the shovel as a metaphor for the body. SpongeBob's confusion nearly exposes their crime multiple times as he asks about what to do with the inspector before Mr. Krabs cuts him off. The police officers grow suspicious, but misinterpret the coded conversation as being about bottles of soda. The freezer gambit. Back at the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob faces the challenge of hiding the body without arousing suspicion. The back door is locked, forcing him to carry the inspector through the main dining area with the body stuffed inside his hat. His wobbling gait and obvious struggles draw attention from the police officers, who question his strange behavior. Mr. Krabs attempts to distract the officers with bribes and small talk, but their walkie-talkie crackles with a report about 2 ghouls burying a stiff over by Shallow Grave Road. The officers are literally receiving a report about Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob's activities while standing in the same room as the perpetrators. When one officer requests ice for her drink, the situation reaches peak tension. Mr. Krabs grows increasingly panicked as she moves toward the freezer where SpongeBob has hidden the body. His desperate attempts to stop her, including the absurd claim that ice is just a myth, only increase suspicion. The confession and its aftermath. Faced with inevitable discovery, Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob choose to confess rather than be caught in the act. They admit to murdering the health inspector and hiding his body in the freezer. It's a moment of complete psychological breakdown as they abandon their cover-up and throw themselves on the mercy of law enforcement. But when the officers open the freezer, they find it empty. The body has vanished without explanation, leaving the confessors looking like they're either joking or suffering from shared delusions. The officers prepare to leave, dismissing the confession as either a prank or stress-induced fantasy. One officer jokingly suggests that maybe the health inspector became a zombie and walked away. This throwaway comment becomes prophetic when the inspector suddenly emerges from behind the freezer, groggy and disoriented from his extended unconsciousness. The zombie misunderstanding. The officers immediately assume the inspector is indeed a zombie and attack him with heavy objects, delivering more punishment to the already battered victim. The poor man has now been poisoned, though he never ate the patty, knocked unconscious multiple times, buried alive, transported in a car trunk, hidden in a freezer, and beaten by police officers who think he's undead. Only after the assault do the officers realize he's alive and human. The inspector, fearing for his life and wanting to escape before suffering further violence, quickly passes the Krusty Krab inspection. His decision is based entirely on terror rather than any actual evaluation of the restaurant's health standards. The aftermath and implications. The episode ends with the inspector giving the Krusty Krab a passing grade solely to avoid further abuse. He's promised a free Krabby Patty for his troubles, but even this gesture goes wrong when a closing door hits him in the face. The poor man can't catch a break even after his ordeal officially ends. The larger implications of the incident are staggering. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob committed conspiracy to commit food poisoning, attempted murder through contaminated food, improper disposal of what they believed was a human body, obstruction of justice, and accessory to police brutality. Yet they face no consequences whatsoever. The psychology of food tampering. The Nasty Patty represents one of the most extreme cases of food tampering in media history. The deliberate contamination wasn't motivated by mental illness or random malice, but by pure greed and wounded pride. Mr. Krabs couldn't bear the thought of giving away free food, even to someone he believed was legitimately entitled to it as part of their job. The systematic nature of the contamination reveals a methodical approach to causing harm. Each ingredient was chosen specifically to maximize suffering: the volcano sauce for immediate burning pain, the seahorse radish for its notorious effects, the toenail clippings for disease transmission, the toilet water for bacterial contamination, and the gym socks for additional pathogens. The breakdown of professional ethics. The episode showcases the complete collapse of food service professionalism under pressure. Mr. Krabs, as a business owner, had legal and ethical obligations to serve safe food regardless of his personal feelings about customers. His decision to deliberately poison someone represents the antithesis of every food safety protocol and business ethic. SpongeBob's participation is equally troubling because it shows how workplace pressure can corrupt even fundamentally good people. His initial hesitation suggests he knew the plan was wrong, but his fear of unemployment overcame his moral compass. The scene where he gleefully adds toilet water to the patty shows how quickly he embraced the criminal conspiracy. The legal implications. In any realistic legal system, the events of Nasty Patty would result in multiple felony charges: attempted poisoning, conspiracy to commit bodily harm, improper disposal of human remains, obstruction of justice, and providing false information to police officers would combine to ensure decades in prison for both perpetrators. The fact that their victim never actually consumed the poisoned food wouldn't absolve them of criminal intent. The preparation and serving of deliberately contaminated food with intent to cause harm constitutes attempted poisoning regardless of whether the poison was consumed. Their elaborate cover-up demonstrates consciousness of guilt and premeditation that would make their case even worse. The systemic failures. The episode reveals troubling failures throughout Bikini Bottom systems. The police officers fail to connect obvious clues about a body burial with the suspicious behavior happening right in front of them. The health inspection system allows someone to be beaten unconscious and still pass an establishment without proper evaluation. The news media's reporting of the fake inspector creates the initial confusion, but their follow-up reporting that identifies the real fake comes too late to prevent the disaster. The timing suggests a rushed journalism environment where breaking news takes precedence over accuracy and public safety. The victim's ordeal. Health Inspector Andy Yellowtail emerges as perhaps the most abused character in SpongeBob history. His professional dedication leads him to consume an entire restaurant menu without complaint, only to become the target of an attempted murder based on mistaken identity. He suffers multiple head injuries, burial alive, imprisonment in a freezer, and police brutality. His decision to pass the restaurant inspection despite never actually evaluating it properly represents a form of PTSD response. He's willing to say anything to escape further harm. The fact that he still wants to eat a Krabby Patty at the end suggests either incredible professional dedication or serious head trauma affecting his judgment. The cultural impact. Nasty Patty stands as one of the darkest episodes in children's television history, featuring themes of food poisoning, body disposal, and police cover-ups that would be more appropriate for adult crime dramas. Its inclusion in a children's show creates cognitive dissonance about what constitutes appropriate content for young viewers. The episode's black comedy approach to serious crimes like attempted murder and evidence tampering normalizes criminal behavior by presenting it as funny rather than horrifying. The lack of consequences for the perpetrators sends the message that criminal behavior is acceptable if no one gets seriously hurt. The restaurant industry reflection. The episode serves as a dark mirror of real restaurant industry problems, including food safety violations, hostile reactions to health inspections, and the pressure to cut corners for profit. While most restaurant owners don't deliberately poison inspectors, the underlying tensions about regulation and oversight are genuine industry concerns. The systematic contamination of the nasty patty parallels real-world cases of food tampering by disgruntled employees or cost-cutting owners. The episode's extreme example highlights how quickly food service can become dangerous when profit motives override safety concerns. The moral event horizon. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob cross multiple moral event horizons during the episode. The decision to deliberately poison someone represents a willingness to cause serious bodily harm for financial reasons. The choice to cover up what they believe to be a death shows they value their freedom over justice for their victim. Their lack of remorse throughout most of the episode, laughing at their victim's suffering and only panicking when they face consequences, reveals a fundamental lack of empathy that borders on sociopathic. They're not sorry for hurting someone. They're sorry they might get caught. Nasty Patty remains a disturbing outlier in the SpongeBob catalog, transforming beloved characters into would-be murderers and the cheerful Krusty Krab into a crime scene. It serves as a reminder that even the most innocent-seeming entertainment can explore surprisingly dark themes, and that the line between comedy and horror is often thinner than we'd like to believe. The episode's lasting impact comes not from its humor, but from its unflinching portrayal of how quickly ordinary people can become criminals when greed overcomes conscience. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Mr. Krabs' Cheapness Chronicles, the most extreme cost-cutting measures. Mr. Krabs has earned his reputation as the cheapest crab in all of Bikini Bottom through decades of extreme penny pinching that pushes the boundaries of reasonable business practices. His desperate attempts to save every single cent have created some of the most outrageous moments in SpongeBob history, turning basic restaurant operations into elaborate schemes of financial torture. The dollar per footstep scheme. One of Mr. Krabs' most notorious cost-cutting schemes involved putting up a free Krabby Patties sign to lure customers into the restaurant, only to follow it with another sign charging customers $1 per footstep. This meant that customers who came for free food suddenly found themselves trapped, unable to move without paying money. The scheme was so extreme that it left customers standing frozen in place, afraid to take another step and rack up more charges. This twisted logic perfectly captures Mr. Krabs' ability to turn any situation into a money-making opportunity, even when it means betraying the very promise that brought customers through his door. The footstep scheme shows how Mr. Krabs thinks several moves ahead when it comes to extracting money from people. He understood that the word free would draw crowds, but instead of losing money on free food, he found a way to charge them for the very act of being in his restaurant. The psychological torture of being unable to move without paying demonstrates how his cheapness goes beyond simple penny pinching into cruel manipulation. Charging employees for basic human functions. Mr. Krabs took his employee exploitation to new extremes by billing SpongeBob and Squidward for ridiculous things like breathing and standing while at work. This represents perhaps the most absurd example of workplace cost-cutting in television history. The idea that employees should pay their boss for the privilege of performing basic biological functions while making him money shows how completely Mr. Krabs' greed has warped his understanding of the employer-employee relationship. SpongeBob initially accepted these charges without question, even paying the bills that accumulated from his breathing and standing. This highlights both SpongeBob's loyalty and Mr. Krabs' willingness to exploit that loyalty for financial gain. Only when Squidward convinced SpongeBob to go on strike did they challenge these outrageous charges, leading to them being fired before Mr. Krabs eventually begged them to return. The breathing charges particularly demonstrate the depths of Mr. Krabs' penny-pinching madness. Air is free, but in Mr. Krabs' mind, if his employees are using that air while on his property, they should pay for the privilege. This logic reveals how his obsession with money has completely disconnected him from reality. The rotten patty economics. Mr. Krabs' refusal to throw away a single rotten Krabby Patty led to weeks of lost business as he insisted on trying to serve the spoiled food to customers. When the moldy patty became so old it could growl like an animal, Mr. Krabs still refused to accept the loss. His determination to avoid wasting food reached dangerous levels when he eventually ate the rotten patty himself to prove it was still good, landing him in the hospital. This episode perfectly captures how Mr. Krabs' penny pinching often costs him more money than he saves. The weeks of lost business from trying to serve one rotten patty far exceeded the cost of simply throwing it away and making a fresh one. But his psychological inability to accept any financial loss, no matter how small, blinds him to the bigger picture. The rotten patty incident also shows how Mr. Krabs' cheapness can become genuinely dangerous. His willingness to poison customers and eventually himself, rather than accept a small loss, demonstrates that his obsession with money has become a serious mental health issue that puts everyone around him at risk. The quarter on a string con. During his visit to the Cheapest Crab Award ceremony, Mr. Krabs demonstrated his signature move of giving a bellhop a quarter as a tip, only to pull it back with an attached string. This cruel deception shows how Mr. Krabs uses the appearance of generosity to maintain social relationships while avoiding any actual financial cost. The quarter on a string represents the perfect Mr. Krabs scam because it allows him to look generous in the moment while ensuring he loses nothing. The psychological cruelty of giving someone hope for a tip only to snatch it away reveals how his cheapness has made him genuinely mean-spirited. The fact that he tried to teach this technique to SpongeBob shows how he views these deceptive practices as valuable life skills rather than cruel tricks. When SpongeBob attempted the same trick, it backfired spectacularly when a large employee grabbed the quarter and walked away with it stuck to his body, taking the string with him. This moment perfectly illustrates how Mr. Krabs' penny-pinching schemes often fail when attempted by someone who lacks his years of experience in being terrible to people. The counterfeit currency system. Mr. Krabs revealed his ultimate cost-cutting measure by paying his employees with counterfeit money called Mr. Krabs' Wacky Bucks. This fake currency allowed him to maintain the illusion of paying his workers while ensuring that no real money ever left his possession. The bills looked similar to real money but were completely worthless outside the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob genuinely believed these fake bills were better than real money, showing how Mr. Krabs has manipulated his most loyal employee into accepting worthless compensation. When Pearl discovered the fake money scheme, she rightfully called it out, but SpongeBob's continued enthusiasm for the worthless currency demonstrates the extent of Mr. Krabs' psychological manipulation. The Wacky Bucks system represents the ultimate expression of Mr. Krabs' cheapness because it allows him to avoid paying his employees entirely while maintaining their loyalty through deception. This scheme reveals that his penny pinching has evolved beyond simple cost cutting into elaborate fraud designed to exploit the people who trust him most. The soul trading incident. Perhaps Mr. Krabs' most morally bankrupt moment came when he sold SpongeBob's soul to the Flying Dutchman for exactly 62 cents. This transaction represents the logical endpoint of his obsession with money, where even the eternal spiritual well-being of his most loyal employee becomes a commodity to be traded for pocket change. The 62-cent price tag makes the betrayal even more insulting because it shows how little Mr. Krabs values SpongeBob despite his crucial role in the restaurant's success. The fact that he was willing to condemn his friend to an eternity of torment for less than the cost of a candy bar reveals the complete moral bankruptcy that his cheapness has created. When Squidward called him out for this horrific action, Mr. Krabs' only response was to ask if he could have gotten more money for the soul. This reaction shows that he felt no remorse for the betrayal itself, only regret that he might have undervalued the commodity he was selling. The jellyfish factory horror. Mr. Krabs' discovery that customers loved SpongeBob's jellyfish jelly Krabby Patties led to one of his most disturbing cost-cutting operations. Rather than purchasing jelly from suppliers or allowing SpongeBob to continue catching jellyfish naturally, Mr. Krabs established a factory where jellyfish were imprisoned, tortured, and systematically drained of their jelly. The jellyfish factory represented industrial-scale cruelty designed to maximize profit while minimizing costs. The imprisoned jellyfish were kept in terrible conditions and subjected to mechanical extraction processes that caused them obvious pain and distress. This operation showed how Mr. Krabs' cheapness could escalate into genuine evil when combined with his desire for maximum profit. When SpongeBob discovered the factory, he was horrified by the cruelty being inflicted on creatures he considered friends. The mass liberation of the jellyfish and their subsequent revenge on Mr. Krabs provided a rare moment of justice where his penny-pinching schemes received appropriate punishment. The penny obsession extreme. Mr. Krabs' obsession with avoiding any financial loss reached its peak when he became convinced that SpongeBob had found a penny on the street. His determination to acquire this single cent led him to spend massive amounts of money on elaborate schemes, including building a movie theater, hiring actors, and creating complex scenarios all designed to trick SpongeBob into giving up the penny. The irony of spending thousands of dollars to acquire 1 cent perfectly captures the madness of Mr. Krabs' penny-pinching psychology. His inability to accept that someone else might possess even the smallest amount of money drives him to completely irrational behavior that costs him far more than he could ever hope to gain. The penny obsession episode reveals how Mr. Krabs' cheapness has become a mental illness that prevents him from making rational financial decisions. His willingness to destroy his own financial well-being in pursuit of a single penny shows that his relationship with money has become completely dysfunctional. The tortured business model. Mr. Krabs' extreme cost-cutting measures reveal a business philosophy based on psychological manipulation, employee exploitation, and customer deception. His schemes consistently prioritize short-term savings over long-term sustainability, often resulting in greater losses than the money he was trying to save. The pattern of his penny pinching shows someone who has completely lost touch with normal human values in favor of pure financial obsession. His willingness to betray friends, torture animals, and endanger public health for minimal financial gain demonstrates how his cheapness has transformed him into a genuinely dangerous individual. The lasting impact of Mr. Krabs' extreme penny pinching extends far beyond simple comedy into territory that exposes the darkest aspects of unchecked capitalism and greed. His character serves as a warning about what happens when the pursuit of money becomes more important than basic human decency and moral behavior. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Dying for Pie, the Krusty Krab's most emotional day. The episode where SpongeBob believes he's eaten a bomb pie stands as one of the most unexpectedly heartfelt moments in the entire SpongeBob series. What begins as a simple workplace comedy transforms into a deeply emotional story about friendship, guilt, and the lengths we go to for people we care about, even when we don't realize we care about them. The setup of genuine emotion. Employee Brotherhood Day at the Krusty Krab sets the stage for what would become one of the most touching episodes in SpongeBob history. SpongeBob presents Squidward with a sweater made entirely from his own eyelashes, a gift so personal and heartfelt that it perfectly captures his innocent devotion to friendship. When Squidward rejects this incredibly thoughtful present as too itchy, SpongeBob begins crying so intensely that he immediately creates a second sweater from his tears. This opening sequence establishes the emotional foundation of the entire episode. SpongeBob's willingness to literally give pieces of himself to show friendship contrasts sharply with Squidward's selfish desire to simply buy a gift rather than make one. The eyelash sweater represents everything pure about SpongeBob's approach to relationships, while Squidward's dismissal shows how completely he fails to understand the value of genuine affection. The tear sweater becomes even more poignant when we consider what happens later in the episode. SpongeBob's immediate response to rejection isn't anger or hurt, but an attempt to make something even more personal and meaningful. This moment foreshadows the emotional journey Squidward will take as he discovers what SpongeBob's friendship really means. The accidental act of love. Squidward's purchase of what he believes is an innocent pie from pirates becomes the catalyst for the most emotionally intense day of his life. When he discovers that the pie is actually a bomb and that SpongeBob has apparently eaten it, Squidward experiences a psychological transformation that reveals depths of caring he never knew he possessed. The moment when Mr. Krabs tells Squidward that SpongeBob will explode at sunset becomes the episode's emotional turning point. Squidward's immediate reaction isn't relief that his annoying neighbor will be gone, but genuine horror at what he's done. His question about how to tell SpongeBob shows that his first instinct is honesty and compassion, even though Mr. Krabs advises against it. This scene reveals that underneath all his grumpiness and complaints, Squidward has developed real affection for SpongeBob. The guilt he feels isn't just about accidentally hurting someone, but about hurting someone who has shown him nothing but kindness and friendship, despite constant rejection. The day that changed everything. Squidward's decision to make SpongeBob's final hours meaningful creates some of the most touching moments in the entire series. When SpongeBob presents his friendship list of fun activities, everything written in red because it's all extra fun, we see his boundless enthusiasm for life and friendship. Squidward's willingness to participate in every ridiculous activity on the list represents a complete reversal of his usual behavior. The montage of activities they share together shows Squidward experiencing joy through SpongeBob's eyes for perhaps the first time. Whether they're showing Squidward to everyone in town, making him wear a salmon suit, or engaging in various silly games, Squidward begins to understand what he's been missing by constantly pushing SpongeBob away. These shared experiences reveal the genuine friendship that has been developing between them all along, hidden beneath Squidward's constant complaints and SpongeBob's relentless optimism. For one day, Squidward allows himself to see the world through SpongeBob's perspective, and he discovers that it's actually wonderful. The sunset of realization. The final scene, where they watch the sunset together, becomes one of the most emotionally powerful moments in SpongeBob history. Squidward's decision to build a brick wall between them shows his genuine fear and grief about losing SpongeBob. His nervous conversation and obvious distress reveal just how much SpongeBob means to him, even though he's never admitted it before. SpongeBob's innocent comment about how if he were to die in a fiery explosion due to a friend's carelessness, this sunset would be what he'd want to see, demonstrates his complete lack of anger or blame toward Squidward. Even believing he's about to die, SpongeBob focuses on the beauty of the moment and his gratitude for friendship rather than any negative emotions. Squidward's countdown to sunset and his tears when he hears the explosion show genuine grief for someone he's come to love as a friend. His relief when he discovers SpongeBob is still alive, followed immediately by anger at being tricked, perfectly captures the complex emotions of someone who has just experienced the fear of losing a loved one. The friendship that endures. The revelation that SpongeBob never actually ate the pie, but saved it to share with Squidward, provides the episode's most heartwarming moment. This gesture perfectly encapsulates SpongeBob's character, even when given something delicious. His first thought is to share it with his friend. The fact that he kept it in his pocket all day while Squidward worried about his impending doom adds both humor and poignancy to the story. SpongeBob's desire to share the pie represents everything beautiful about his approach to friendship. He doesn't see gifts as things to consume alone, but as opportunities to create shared experiences with people he cares about. This generosity of spirit is what makes SpongeBob such a compelling character and explains why even someone as cynical as Squidward can't help but be moved by his friendship. The episode's explosive ending, where the pie finally detonates in Squidward's face, provides both comedic closure and symbolic meaning. In a way, Squidward does experience the explosion of emotion that the pie represents, the realization that friendship and love are worth more than any temporary discomfort or embarrassment, the lasting impact of one day. Dying for Pie stands out in the SpongeBob canon because it shows real character growth and emotional depth without sacrificing the show's signature humor. Squidward's journey from selfish indifference to genuine caring feels authentic and earned, while SpongeBob's consistent kindness and generosity shine even brighter against the backdrop of potential tragedy. The episode demonstrates that beneath all the workplace comedy and silly situations, SpongeBob and Squidward have developed a real friendship based on genuine affection and care. Their relationship may return to its usual dynamic in later episodes, but this day proves that the foundation of real friendship exists between them, even when it's hidden under layers of workplace stress and personality conflicts. The emotional resonance of Dying for Pie comes from its willingness to take the characters' relationships seriously while maintaining the show's comedic sensibility. It proves that animated comedy can explore deep themes of friendship, mortality, and love without losing its sense of fun or becoming overly sentimental. This episode remains beloved by fans because it captures something true about friendship, that sometimes it takes the threat of loss to make us realize how much someone means to us. Squidward's emotional journey mirrors our own experiences of taking relationships for granted until circumstances force us to confront their real value. Dying for Pie ultimately teaches us that every day with the people we care about is precious, and that showing love and kindness to others creates meaning that transcends any temporary embarrassment or inconvenience. It stands as proof that even the most unlikely friendships can contain depths of caring that surprise everyone involved, including the friends themselves. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.